Chapter 25-29. All of them were dead. Lin Ling's personality was that the more unreasonable the other party was, the more fearless Lin Ling would be. Moreover, he had helped White Fox without any compensation, so the scholar should owe him a favor. If the scholar was so overbearing and unreasonable, Lin Ling would be disappointed. After all, White Fox had waited for so many years for such a man. Lin Ling felt indignant on her behalf. At this moment, the scholar picked up the wine jug and drank. He looked calm, but the experts behind him narrowed their eyes. Generally speaking, the calmer Lord Lu Chen was, the angrier he was. At that time, corpses would be strewn everywhere, and blood would flow like a river. For a moment, the experts all looked at Lin Ling, thinking that Lin Ling did not know how to appreciate favors. Irrelevant people, leave this place immediately. However, just as they thought the scholar was going to kill someone, the scholar finished the jug of wine and looked at the people around him with a smile. He didn't kill anyone. The experts of the Creation Alliance were all shocked. Once in the Eastern Territory, there was also a genius who was arrogant and domineering. When he saw Lord Lu Chen, he was not afraid. At that time, Lord Lu Chen was also all smiles as he drank a jug of wine. However, one moment he was elegant, the next moment he bared his fangs. Not only did he kill that genius, he even slaughtered that entire territory. This was the anger of an expert. No matter how talented that genius was or what kind of background he had, when he encountered Lord Lu Chen, even a dragon would have to bow before him. This was also the pride of an expert. And now Lord Lu Chen had actually let those people go? This was the first time something like this had ever happened. We can leave now. Hearing this, the four symbols' true gods were all delighted. But these godly oars. However, some people looked at the sinkhole unwillingly. This was how humans were. A moment ago, they were still worried about their own lives, but when their lives were no longer in danger, they would start to covet the rewards in front of them. After all, they had gathered here for a long time, and now they had not obtained anything. How could they be satisfied? In fact, they were even inferior to Tang Yongyun. At least the latter had robbed a lot of godly crystals. Do you want your lives or the godly ores? His Excellency spared your lives. You should be content. To think that there were people who were willing to sacrifice their lives for the divine crystals. This was a joke to the Creators' Alliance. These ants didn't know Lord Lu Chen's murderous nature. Otherwise, they would have run far, far away from the Nine Dragons' realm. No, let's go. After the great four symbols' true god calmed down, he immediately waved his hand. His forehead was also covered in cold sweat. Only now did he remember what kind of ambitious and ruthless character he was facing. Wait! However, just when they thought they had escaped with their lives, an indifferent voice suddenly sounded out, and the voice was mixed with dense killing intent. Oh! Countless people looked at the person who spoke and discovered that it was Lin Ling. Big Four Symbols' true god, and the rest immediately sneered. This Lin Ling still dared to be arrogant at this moment? They couldn't help but look forward to what would happen next. Perhaps Lin Ling's arrogance would completely enrage the scholar. The condition I mentioned before is to kill all of them. If you agree, I'll take you to see her. At this moment, Lin Ling looked at the scholar with a determined gaze and sharp killing intent. Previously, everyone wanted Lin Ling dead. If there was a chance, Lin Ling would also kill everyone. Others wanted to kill him, so he would kill them in return. It was that simple. How dare you? Hearing that, the Great Four Symbols' true god and the rest didn't expect Lin Ling to make such a request. Today, if not for the arrival of the Creators' Alliance, Lin Ling would have been dead. Now, not only did Lin Ling not feel lucky, he wanted to kill them all. He was so arrogant that he couldn't see through himself. You think you have the right to make conditions with His Excellency? The others also looked coldly at Lin Ling. He didn't believe that the expert riding the lightning dragon would listen to Lin Ling. Are you sure? You should know that no one has ever made conditions with me before. If they do, the price will be great. At this time, the scholar looked at Lin Ling with surprise. After all, even a true divinity realm martial artist would feel fear and trepidation when encountering him. As for Lin Ling, he was only at the World King realm, and yet he didn't seem to fear him at all. You have no other choice. However, the scholar thought that Lin Ling would be respectful to him. But Lin Ling only lightly replied. It was as if he were saying, "This is the only choice I can give you." Haha. The scholar couldn't help but laugh. As for the powerhouses of the Creators' Alliance, they sucked in a breath of cold air. This youth's tone was far too bold. Even the great four symbols true god and the others believed that Lin Ling would undoubtedly die. They didn't leave for the time being. To be able to see Lin Ling die in front of their eyes was already an extremely good thing. Since I've come here, I already have a way to find her. Don't you think it's naive for you to use this to threaten me? After the scholar laughed, his complexion turned icy cold. When he laughed, he wanted to kill. When he was icy cold, he was even crazier when he killed. The powerhouses of the Creators Alliance hadn't seen Lord Lu Chun reveal such an icy expression for a long, long time. I know you can find her, but you've made her wait for endless years. Can you make up for all of this? This is what you owe her. A woman who has waited for you for so long isn't someone you can see just because you want to. Lin Ling lightly said. Bang! These words caused the scholar's heart to thump. Sincerity. Lin Ling seemed to want to see his sincerity. Most importantly, Lin Ling was speaking from the perspective of White Fox. This feeling was like Lin Ling was White Fox's little brother. He was fighting for his big sister's dignity. A woman had waited for him for endless years. Could he, Lu Chen, find her just because he wanted to? Perhaps Lin Ling also wanted to know his heart. I understand. A solemn expression appeared on the scholar's face. For the first time, he took a deep look at Lin Ling. This was because he realized that this young man not only wanted to use him to kill the enemy, but he also wanted to test him. If this were to happen to anyone else, they would simply be courting death. However, for the sake of White Fox, he felt that everything was worth it. Everyone die. The scholar looked at the four symbols true gods and the others. An icy killing intent also emanated from him. What? My lord, don't listen to him. He's trying to drive a wedge between us. The four symbols true gods and the others narrowed their eyes. They could have left before, but they wanted to see Lin Ling die, so they stayed behind. However, what awaited them was the scythe of the Grim Reaper. You mean I'm stupid, so he's trying to drive a wedge between us? The scholar smiled, and there was a hint of mockery in his smile. I dare not. What I mean is that my lord has his own principles. How can you listen to the words of a minor character? Moreover, this minor character's strength is as weak as trash, but he repeatedly disrespected my lord. My lord, you should kill him as an example to others and prove your awe-inspiring name. The four symbols true gods hurriedly bowed and said, how could they do their best to make that scholar change his mind? Sorry, I'm a temperamental person. Occasionally, I also like to listen to the words of minor characters. However, the scholar tilted his head and replied indifferently. That calm voice undoubtedly made the four symbols true gods and the others turn ashen. Dead. Were they all going to die? Chapter 2530. Nine Lantern Fish. The person who controlled their lives was actually a junior at the World King realm. Because the scholar seemed to be in a good mood, he was planning to let them go. No. Lord, please spare us. Thinking of this, many people began to shout. Haha. Unfortunately, the scholar only smiled. He opened his mouth and spat out a black fog that filled the sky. A bone-chilling killing intent covered the entire sky. The powerhouses of the Creator Alliance licked their lips as if they were extremely interested in this massacre. Obviously, they had done this many times before. I don't want to die here. The sky was in chaos as countless lives were being devoured. As for the four symbols true god and the other powerhouses, they were no longer calm. Their faces were pale as they lost their cool in panic. However, the billowing black fog shrouded them and constantly devoured them, making it impossible for them to escape from the black fog. The people here are my people. Seeing the terrifying black fog, Lin Ling's expression turned solemn as he hurriedly shouted. Hearing Lin Ling's words, the all-devouring black fog drifted away and did not rush towards Tang Yongyun and the others. I've escaped. At this moment, at the edge of the black fog, the four symbols true god's figure appeared. He had actually escaped from the black fog. However, after he used all his strength to rush out, people were horrified to discover that the front half of his body was normal, but the back half of his body, including the back of his head, had turned into white bones. White bones on one side and flesh on the other. This was terrifying. What was even more terrifying was that the great four symbols true god didn't seem to notice this. He laughed heartily, but at the same time, the flesh and blood on the front half of his body began to melt like water. In the end, he was nothing but a skeleton. The skeleton was still laughing. Its teeth and eye sockets were clearly visible. Moreover, the black fog in the sky seemed to have begun to disperse, revealing countless white bones. The powerhouses from before had all turned into white bones. They were not dead for the time being, but they were all looking at themselves in pain. Many of these powerhouses were indomitable existences in the Green Prefecture, especially the true God Realm powerhouses. They were the overlords of various forces, but now they were no different from mortals. In fact, they had died more miserably than ordinary people. How terrifying, Tang Yue said with a pale face. Could it be that the person Lin Ling was talking about is him? Tang Yongyan also said nervously. Lin Ling is really a madman. He actually asked a tiger for its skin. One had to know that if Lin Ling had lost the bet, the ones who would have turned into bones would have been them. In fact, Lin Ling's palms were sweating. He was indeed gambling, and if he lost, there was no need to think about the consequences. Fortunately, he made the right bet. A man who could make White Fox wait for thousands of years was not someone without principles. No. At this moment, the skeletons in the sky were getting weaker and weaker. They let out indignant cries and looked at Lin Ling with their empty eyes. Because it was Lin Ling who forced them to die. At this moment, many thoughts appeared in their minds. What if they had allowed Lin Ling to leave earlier? Perhaps they wouldn't die. This was because they also sensed that the Creator's Alliance had come for Lin Ling. This also meant that Lin Ling had brought disaster to them. I will not let you go even if I become a ghost. That great four symbols true deity said extremely weakly. Unfortunately, his bones began to age, producing cracks, breaking apart inch by inch. I don't want to die. Then the four symbols real God let out a painful groan. He watched himself die without any pain. This feeling was indescribable. Moreover, if he had not come to the Nine Dragons realm, he would still be in existence above everyone else. However, this luxurious life was getting further and further away from him. In the end, the four symbols real God turned into broken bones and floated on the ground. As for the experts in the sky, their bones were also broken and fell to the ground one by one. Gradually, the experts of the major forces were all wiped out. Seeing the arrogant major forces turn into piles of yellow soil, Lin Ling and the others sighed. In the rainforest Holy Land, not to mention the true immortal realm, even the World King realm was like a god. However, even this godlike existence could not escape the laws of the world and return to the most basic existence. All of this felt unreal. Little friend, can you bring me there? Yes. The scholar looked at Lin Ling, as if what he had just done was nothing out of the ordinary. Life, death, blooming and withering, this is the great law of the universe. They have only returned to the law. There is no need to be too surprised. The scholar said again, treating the deaths of these people as the great law of the universe. Follow me. Yes. Lin Ling did not waste time and led the scholar forward. As for the divine mine in the sinkhole, Lin Ling did not want to touch it. After all, with the arrival of the Creator's Alliance, the divine mine would obviously belong to them. Fortunately, they had looted a lot of divine mines before, so this trip was not a loss. The scholar asked the Creator's Alliance to stay behind while he followed Lin Ling alone. At this moment, his heart was also excited. Everyone's speed was very fast. Not long after, they arrived at the valley again. Little White. Staring at the valley, the scholar's expression was undoubtedly more excited. It seemed that without the others from the Creator's Alliance, he had also released his true self. Lin Ling even saw that the scholar's eyes were moist. Is this the array that trapped her? No wonder I couldn't find her after searching for so long. The scholar stared at the array, anger appearing on his face. He could imagine how long the white fox had been trapped in the array. If Lin Ling had not luckily encountered the array, then even with his monstrous strength, he might not have been able to find this place. In the end, he could only be separated from the white fox by life and death. Involuntarily, he looked at Lin Ling solemnly and finally bowed. He finally understood why Lin Ling had made such a request. It was because this was indeed a great favor. After I break the array, I will properly thank you. The scholar said word by word. No need. You helped me kill people, and I brought you here. We don't owe each other anything. Moreover, I have important matters to attend to, so I will leave first. Lin Ling shook his head and said, with his current strength, it was very uncomfortable to come in contact with such an expert, so he did not plan to stay any longer. The scholar did not expect Lin Ling to be so straightforward. He thought that Lin Ling would make all kinds of requests. He quickly bowed again and said, Okay, after this, I will look for you. At this moment, he was not a formidable person who dominated the 9 states. but an ordinary person who owed him a favor. 9 lanternfish. After that, he did not say much. He opened his mouth and spat out a terrifying talent. It was as if he had spat out a black ocean. In that ocean, a huge black fish was tossing and turning. The chaotic aura was extremely dense in the universe. What was surprising was that the fish's head had 9 lantern-like tentacles hanging on it. Each lantern was of a different color and seemed to have a power that could not be underestimated. Seeing this, Lin Ling's expression became serious. Chapter 2531. Anxious to return. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The fish opened its mouth and spat out a multicolored beam of energy that shot into the mountain valley like a column of water. Ka-ka-ka. The demon-suppressing array formation of the mountain valley immediately shattered. Fragments of ancient spiritual energy shot out in all directions like chunks of ice. The ancient array formation couldn't block a single strike. This strength was terrifying, as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. It caused Lin Ling and the others to draw back. Little White. The scholar didn't care about the terrifying strength that erupted in front of him. He revealed a crazed smile and shot into the mountain valley. At the same time, in the mountain valley, a woman in a white dress looked up at the skies. Her delicate body shivered. At this moment, she was beautiful, extremely beautiful. Big Brother Lu. She also cried out in pleasant surprise. Then, she also flew into the skies. In this moment, it was like they had returned to tens of thousands of years ago, to the first encounter between White Fox and the scholar. This was a relationship that traced back tens of thousands of years. Let's go. Seeing this warm scene, Lin Ling's heart also warmed. Then, he waved his hand and led everyone away. Thinking about it, the scholar and young man also had thousands of words to say to each other. Thus, it was better to leave this moment to the two of them. Thank you. White Fox looked at the departing Lin Ling and knelt down in the air. After leaving the array formation, her strength had quietly recovered, surpassing the true divinity realm. However, facing the World King realm Lin Ling, she still knelt down. No matter how strong Lin Ling was, he was still her benefactor. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But compared to White Fox's excitement, the scholar was even more excited. When all of this appeared in front of him, he knew just how great of a favor he owed this youth. A woman has waited for you for tens of thousands of years. Moreover, she has lived through these dry and dull years. This is rare. Don't let her down, otherwise I, Lin Ling, will be the first one to not let you go. Now accompany her and have a good chat. Lin Ling waved his hand with his back to the two of them and left in a carefree manner. Tang Yangyun's pupils shrank. Lin Ling wouldn't let the scholar go? Lin Ling's words were truly bold. Of course, of course. However, the scholar nodded heavily, as if he believed that if he let the White Fox down, Lin Ling would definitely not let him off. White Fox was stunned for a moment. Tears welled up in her eyes. At that moment, all the words she wanted to say turned into a single word of thanks, which was buried deep in her heart. Lin Ling led Tang Yangyun and the others out of the 9 Dragons realm, appearing in the chaos of the universe. Tisk tsk. Today's encounter is truly a silver lining. Little friend Lin Ling, you're still the best. Tang Yangyun looked at Lin Ling in surprise. At this moment, he no longer had the airs of a senior. I was just lucky. Now let's split the loot. Lin Ling waved his hand and said with a smile. He hurriedly took out his divine crystal. The others immediately did the same, causing a large number of divine crystals to float around in the void. According to the previous agreement, I'll take 30%. Lin Ling licked his lips and immediately said with a smile. There were a lot of divine crystals, enough for him to use for a long time. The adventure this time was finally over. Not only had Lin Ling's strength greatly improved, but his harvest was also beyond his imagination. Let's split it 50-50. After all, we didn't do anything. Hearing this, the others spoke one after another. At this moment, they were completely convinced by Lin Ling. That's right. Take 50%. Tang Yangyun also agreed. He knew that the real gods of the 4 symbols returned empty-handed. They even lost their lives. How could they not be satisfied with such a harvest? No need. 30% it is. I'm a man of my words. Lin Ling rejected Tang Yangyun's good intentions. He didn't like to raise the price after the event. How about this? I'll represent Square Commandery and owe you a favor. In the martial god realm, you only need to say one word, and Square Commandery will move for you. Tang Yongyan pondered for a moment and said immediately. Tang Yue, who was beside him, couldn't help but smile. Lin Ling had unlimited potential and was connected to many powerful forces and experts. Now, the Square Commandery had a good relationship with Lin Ling, which was a good thing for Square Commandery. Okay, Lin Ling nodded. After taking his share of divine crystals, he waved his hand and left. Your Excellency, I'll wait for you in the martial god realm. Seeing Lin Ling leave, Tang Yue said with a smile. As expected, as someone who worked for Lin Ling, she would never lose out. Then you go back first. I'll be back to the Bright Academy soon. Also, thank you for your suggestion. Lin Ling shrugged. If Tang Yue hadn't asked him to come to the Nine Dragons realm, Lin Ling wouldn't have been able to gain so much. Therefore, he was grateful to Tang Yue. Hearing this, Tang Yue nodded. After Lin Ling left, Tang Yongyan said, This Lin Ling is not simple. Princess Yue, you've finally grown up. You have your own choice and vision, and you've made the right choice. It was Tang Yue who had decided to let them follow Lin Ling, and she had made the right bet. Lin Ling had controlled everything from the beginning to the end. He was the ruler of the entire Nine Dragons realm. Haha, following him has taught me to be decisive. Tang Yue looked into the distance and said, Her Excellency was probably the expert she would pursue for the rest of her life. At this moment, Lin Ling wasn't in a hurry to return to the Bright Academy. He had left the rainforest's sacred ground for many years, and he wanted to go back and take a look. Beside Lin Ling were Dao Dai and the others. They knew that Lin Ling had something to do and had to leave. Therefore, they said gratefully to Lin Ling, thank you. We'll meet again next time. Okay, I hope we'll meet again. Looking at these friends who had fought side by side, Lin Ling felt a little reluctant, but he still replied with a smile. He knew that the martial god realm was too big. Therefore, friends like Dao Dai and the others were just strangers he had met by chance. It would be very difficult for them to meet again. However, all good things must come to an end. When it was time to leave, he still had to leave. Lin Ling said a few more words and then shot forward. Looking at Lin Ling's back, Dao Dai and the others had mixed feelings and spoke fiercely. If Lin Ling returns to the three great academies will definitely be alarmed. Unfortunately, Lin Ling is too strong. We can't keep up with his footsteps. We can only look up to him forever. Yes, but it's not bad to get to know him. In the future, when Lin Ling's name shakes the martial god realm, I'll be able to brag to my friends. Let's go back. At this moment, Lin Ling was walking around the universe. After experiencing the White Fox incident, he cherished the people around him even more. Therefore, he was eager to return home. Then, Lin Ling walked on the martial god path. When he appeared again, a familiar smell hit him in the face. Lin Ling couldn't help but feel refreshed. However, he wasn't in a hurry to return to the rainforest's sacred ground. Instead, he floated in the sky and enjoyed the hard-won tranquility. At this moment, his soul power was quietly increasing. Currently, his strength could be said to be invincible among the second generation. However, the battle with the half-step true god realm expert showed him his weakness. It was his speed. Chapter 2532. Seeing an old friend again. The third transformation of the evil flame change increases the realm of three realms. It also has resistance against the power of wind, thunder, and water. Most importantly, it can increase the speed of wind and clouds. Lin Ling muttered to himself as he walked along the ground. He casually walked and arrived at the Saint's grand domain. This was another continent of the mortal world in the past. The Death Arrow martial god. Staring at the prosperous continent, Lin Ling's eyes flashed as he saw an acquaintance. It was Li Xiao Yao's former opponent in the mortal world. However, the Death Arrow martial god had been crippled by Lin Ling and was living an ordinary life. Of course, as a cultivator, he lived by the martial Dao. Even if his cultivation was crippled, he would subconsciously cultivate again. On a remote mountain range in the Saint's grand domain, the sun shone brightly. Three figures bathed in the sunlight as they chatted happily. This was a family. A wife, a husband, and a child. The wife and child were grilling meat while the husband was looking into the distance, enjoying the warmth of the family. "Father, the meat is ready." At this moment, the child spoke. In fact, the child was already a teenager. "All right, I'll try your cooking." The man laughed as he strode forward. The sense of accomplishment in his heart grew even stronger. In the past, he was Li Xiao Yao's mortal enemy. He wanted to kill Lin Ling, but failed in the end. Instead, his cultivation was crippled by Lin Ling. In the following days, he knew that in this ruthless world, it was absolutely impossible to stand without cultivation. Therefore, he cultivated again. Although he did not recover his former strength, he had entered the Saint Realm and was an existence that could not be underestimated in the nearby area. This way, he could also protect his family. Of course, there were many geniuses in the mortal world. In the past few years, more powerhouses had risen. Many rising stars had reached Wu Sheng's level and were stronger than him. Therefore, he needed to work harder. For this family, he would become stronger. Just as he walked towards the teenager, a figure suddenly appeared on the mountain peak and smiled at the man. Lin Ling. The man's eyes narrowed as he instantly recognized the young man. Even the teenager gasped. In the past, Lin Ling came and said that he would kill his father. In the end, he spared his father's life. Therefore, he knew that the young man was extremely powerful. Long time no see, Death Arrow Martial God. Surprisingly, the person who had come was Lin Ling. He was just passing by and wanted to see an old friend. The Death Arrow Martial God was Li Xiaoyao's mortal enemy in the past, and he was also Li Xiaoyao's opponent during his growth. But now, not to mention Li Xiaoyao, even Lin Ling didn't treat him as an opponent. Not to mention that the enmity of the past had been dispersed along with the crippling of the Death Arrow Martial God's cultivation. Don't be so nervous, I'm just here to see you. Noticing the Death Arrow Martial God's serious expression, Lin Ling said with a faint smile. The Death Arrow Martial God was stunned when he heard this, and then he sighed lightly. If Lin Ling wants to kill me, he really doesn't have to go through so much trouble. Since you're here, let's sit down and eat. The Death Arrow Martial God invited. Lin Ling smiled and sat down. He accepted the wine offered by the Death Arrow Martial God and chatted as though they were friends. The wife and son of the Dead Arrow Martial God were terrified at the beginning. However, when they saw that Lin Ling was an amiable person, they gradually relaxed. Uncle, you appeared in an instant just now. What kind of martial arts is that? It's so powerful. The youth looked at Lin Ling with admiration. You don't even think about it. The martial arts that he can cultivate is not something that you can comprehend. Even your father can't. Death Arrow Martial God scolded with a smile. On the other hand, Lin Ling nodded his head. This was because the martial arts he had learned before were the boundary origin martial arts. Without the boundary origin seed, he would not be able to cultivate them. Then how strong is this uncle? The youth also learned martial arts, so he was curious about powerful martial artists. And now, even his father was afraid of this person, so he must be very strong. His name is Lin Ling, the strongest martial artist in our world. Speaking of this, the Death Arrow Martial God did not hide anything and said calmly. His words were mixed with pride. It was as though he was not as powerful as Lin Ling, but he knew Lin Ling. This was something to be proud of. Lin Ling? Lin Ling? Could it be that, sir? The youth was also holding the wine bowl, but at this moment, the wine bowl fell to the ground. In this world, there were not many martial artists who had not heard of Lin Ling's name. He was the most terrifying genius in the history of this world. He was also recognized as the strongest martial artist in the three mysteries of the human world, the ghost world, the demon world, and even their continent. He never expected that the handsome uncle that his father knew had such a great background. Hee, it's just a false reputation. Seeing the youth's surprised look, Lin Ling smiled helplessly. Then he looked at the Death Arrow Martial God. You've reached the Saint Realm. Not bad. I'm sorry. Back then, you destroyed my cultivation. I should have been an ordinary person, but the demonic beasts here are powerful. In addition, there are many overbearing people here. So, in order to protect this family, I cultivated again. Hearing this, the Death Arrow Martial God immediately smiled bitterly because he had broken his promise. It's okay. You're just doing what a man should do. Lin Ling did not care about this at all. Then he pondered for a while, and a piece of divine crystal appeared in his right hand. Colorful flames spread out from his palm and burned the divine crystal. Wisps of chaotic spiritual energy wrapped around the Death Arrow Martial God's body like dragons. Seize the opportunity and absorb the spiritual energy into your body. At the same time, Lin Ling said calmly. The Death Arrow Martial God's body trembled. He sensed that the spiritual energy was very ancient and rich. It gave him a feeling that it did not come from this world. At that moment, he seized the opportunity and quickly cultivated. After the spiritual energy entered his body, he immediately realized that it was a divine crystal. However, It was even purer than the divine crystals of this world. Under the influence of the mysterious spiritual energy, his cultivation immediately rose crazily and reached the Wu Sheng realm. Moreover, it did not stop. It rose crazily from the first realm and gradually stepped into the martial emperor realm. Although he still did not recover his former strength, at least he was at the same realm as before. The most terrifying thing was that this was only the effect of a divine crystal in a short period of time. After an unknown period of time, the Death Arrow martial god opened his eyes and looked at Lin Ling in shock. Lin Ling allowed him to recover his strength with a flip of his hand. This was a great favor. No need to thank me. I just wanted to help your family. Lin Ling naturally knew that the other party was surprised. He said with a smile. The Death Arrow martial god did not act pretentiously. He took a deep breath and then bowed heavily. Next, he poured out some wine and gave it to Lin Ling with both hands. Now that his strength had increased greatly, even if someone dared to bully him, he would not be afraid. Your cultivation level is rising very quickly because you have reached this level before. Even so, your foundation is still not solid. You should focus on stabilizing your cultivation level during this period of time. Lin Ling said again. Okay. Chapter 2533. Accepting a disciple. 8th level of the World King Realm. Lin Ling didn't hide it, making the Death Arrow martial god smile bitterly. A long time ago, you were still Li Xiaoyao, and I was your opponent. At that time, you were the first to leave here and reach the martial god realm. Now, you have reincarnated and are the first to go to the martial god realm. You have reached the realm that I have been pursuing my entire life. It seems that whether it is you or Li Xiaoyao, both of you are opponents that I will never be able to surpass. The World King realm must have given birth to a World King seed. This was the martial arts goal that the Death Arrow martial god had been pursuing for his entire life. Unfortunately, he still failed. He could only look up to Lin Ling. On the path of martial arts, as long as you haven't reached the end, everything is hard to say. Maybe it won't be long before your strength catches up to mine. All right, let's not talk about this. Let's drink. Lin Ling smiled and waved his hand. His realm seemed to be rising quickly, but sometimes it was in a life and death crisis. While he was catching up with his old friend, the rainforest's sacred land was bustling with noise and excitement. Because today, Linny had returned from his training. Grandpa, I'm back. When a clear voice sounded, the entire rainforest's sacred land was shaken. Old ancestor Taiyan, Emo Nianchen, and the others all walked out with smiles on their faces. Linny had gone out to train, stepped into the 3 profound of the mortal world, entered the ghost realm, and barged into the devil realm. Young Master Yi, you're back. Lady Shui Wu and the other experts also returned from afar. Then they looked at Lin Ling with doting eyes. This was because they had watched Linny grow up. This little guy had followed in his father's monstrous footsteps and had reached Wu Sheng's realm at such a young age. This training took 3 years, and I saw a lot of interesting things. Lin Yi's childish face had already left. His facial features were distinct, and he had the outline of Lin Ling. Moreover, his eyes flashed with a decisive light. Over the years, he must have faced a lot of storms. Lin Ling had once told him that true martial artists grew up in the midst of wind and rain. Greenhouse flowers looked beautiful, but they couldn't withstand the ravages of wind and rain. Therefore, although his father's name shook heaven and earth, he did not rely on the halo to grow. He concealed his identity, traveled north and south, and defeated countless experts. Wherever his father had gone before, he had always followed him. At this moment, Ancestor Extreme Flame looked at the young lady behind Lin Yi and couldn't help but ask curiously. Her name is Huang Ying, a girl I met during my training. Speaking of the girl behind him, Lin Yi was obviously a little shy. As for the young girl behind her, she was wearing a yellow robe. Her 2 small hands were clasped together, and she looked extremely shy. However, she was slender and elegant, youthful and lively. She gave off a very good impression. Come and meet everyone. Linny added. Patriarch Extreme Flame and the others were stunned. They gradually understood what this meant. Had grown up and found his other half. Greetings, seniors. Huang Ying immediately walked out. Although she was shy, she still bowed to everyone gracefully. Patriarch Extreme Flame and the others couldn't help but laugh. Haha, is this brother Lin Ling's daughter-in-law? Not bad at all. Why don't you work harder and let my brother Lin Ling be a grandfather soon? A heroic voice rang out. Lin couldn't help but smile awkwardly and grumble. Uncle Zhangtian, how can it be so early? The person who spoke was Gu Zhangtian, the former master of Lin Ling's ancient flame devil. Now, he was also living in the rainforest's sacred ground. In this world, the rainforest's sacred ground's atmosphere was the best. No expert dared to cause trouble here because this place belonged to the strongest person in this world, Lin Ling. Hearing the laughter around, the girl called Huang Ying's face turned redder. However, Mo Nianchen, Yu Menyun, Qin Xiaolan, and the others immediately went forward and held the girl's hand. After a few words, the girl was no longer as shy as before. Hee, it's quite lively here. This is your hometown, the rainforest's sacred ground. Just as everyone was rejoicing, an untimely voice suddenly interrupted them. Then immortal clouds floated in the sky, and pure white cranes appeared. The 5 white cranes pulled a palace and arrived in a grandiose manner. At this moment, the sky seemed to be filled with heavenly music, giving people a feeling of prosperity. Countless warriors in the rainforest's sacred ground became solemn. It's him. Lin Yi and Huang Ying's expression changed drastically when they saw who it was. It wasn't the first time they saw the master of the white cranes. A long time ago, in the demon region, they had come into contact with him. They never expected that the master of the white cranes would follow them here. At this moment, the white cranes in the sky descended from the sky and landed on the ground. Each of them was 5 meters tall. Their white wings were folded, and they had a touch of pride as they looked down at the people on the ground. The palace was opened, and several childlike youths supported an old man as they slowly walked out. The old man was wearing a crane robe. He had white hair and a youthful face. He looked extremely young, but his strength was as elegant as an immortal. He gave people a feeling that he couldn't be underestimated. May I know who you are? Sensing that the other party's background wasn't small, old ancestor Taiyan immediately took a step forward and bowed. His current strength had greatly increased, so he could sense that the old man was extraordinary. Hee, ants like you don't have the qualifications to speak to my sect master. We are from the afterlife realm of the North Territory. We are from the White Crane Immortal sect. We passed by here, so we came to take a look. Before the old man could speak, the youths beside him spoke arrogantly. Their words were mixed with arrogance. North Territory? Are they not from this world? Lord Shui Wu, Lord Pu, and the others' expressions changed drastically. If they could come from other realms, it meant that these people had boundary seeds. Their strength must have reached the terrifying World King realm. Their world had always been peaceful. Even when there was unrest, it was mostly internal strife. The last time a powerhouse from the outside world had arrived, it had been brought here by the sun god race. And this time, their world had once again welcomed a powerhouse from the outside world. May I ask why Senior has come here? Old ancestor Taiyan knew that a World King powerhouse was an invincible existence in this world, so he didn't dare to be negligent. There is no need to be so nervous. We powerhouses have no interest in the lives of ants. One of the young men said faintly. His words made everyone feel relieved. We came here because Honorable Master has taken a liking to this junior called Lin Yi and wants to recruit him as a disciple. Another youth said. This was their goal in coming here. Moreover, they had followed Lin Yi in secret for a long time. They knew that Lin Yi's talent was extraordinary, so they wanted to recruit him as a disciple. Recruit him as a disciple? Hearing this, old ancestor Taiyan and the others were stunned. This was the other party's goal? If Lin Ling were to know of this, who knew what Lin Ling would think? Seniors, I have already said that I have no intention of taking you as my master, so I must apologize. Chapter 2534. Returning home in glory, Lin Yi. If you miss this opportunity, then you won't have another one. Immortal White Crane is a 5th-level World King existence, someone you will forever need to look up to. If you miss this opportunity, then you will be stuck here for the rest of your life. A young man sneered and said indifferently. Lin Yi didn't know what the World King realm was, thus he had refused. Otherwise, he would have already knelt down to acknowledge this person as his master. As for the World King realm, their White Crane Immortal sect had already traversed through this world and hadn't seen a single World King powerhouse. To this world, a World King powerhouse was undoubtedly a noble and sacred existence. 5th-level World King realm. Old ancestor Extreme Flame and the others' complexions changed. Although Lin Ling and Yu had gone to Martial God World, they still didn't know what their current strength was. As for a fifth-level world king, they were definitely fiercer than an ordinary world king. Our White Crane Immortal sect has opened a market in Martial God World's first ring city. A place like Martial God World isn't something that country bumpkins like you can understand. The youth spoke again. The old man behind him narrowed his eyes. Although he didn't speak, his expression was one of arrogance. Martial God World, Old Ancestor Extreme Flame, and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. Our White Crane Immortal sect has a deep background, and we know many people in Martial God World. Moreover, that powerhouse is also in the northern lands, searching for some heavenly treasures to refine into pills. In our market, there are often third and last generation disciples of the 3 great academies that come to buy treasures. Those are true martial god geniuses. The youth said. The truth was that he wanted Lin Yi to know just how noble White Crane Immortal sect was. At this time, the entire rainforest Holy Land was silent. How about it? Do you still want to acknowledge a master? Finally, the youth held his hands behind his back, quietly waiting for Lin Yi to kneel down and acknowledge him as his master. I'm sorry, but I don't plan on acknowledging a master because my father will teach me martial arts. Just as White Crane Immortal sect thought that Lin Yi would agree, he stubbornly shook his head. What? The several people from White Crane Immortal sect arched their eyebrows. Even the unfathomable old man's eyes widened. At first, Lin Yi refused because he didn't know how powerful they were. But now that they had said it, Lin Yi still refused? This made them feel very uncomfortable. This group of lowly ants simply couldn't see through themselves. Are you sure? The old man finally spoke. I, the White Crane Immortal, have dominated the 4 realms. You are the first to refuse me. Do you know what this means? I'm sure. However, Lin Yi's answer was quick and straightforward. Who is your father? Call him out. I want to see how he teaches his son. The old man coldly snorted. He never would have thought that taking the initiative to recruit a disciple would result in such treatment. He said indifferently, Let me tell you, if your father was here, he would want nothing more than to take me as his master. Just as he finished speaking, an indifferent laugh suddenly came from afar. It is my fortune that this senior thinks so highly of me. However, everyone has their own ambitions and cannot be forced. The voice came out of nowhere and attracted everyone's attention. They saw a young man in a blue and white robe walking over with a smile. He held a wine pot in one hand and had the other hand behind his back. He was indescribably free and easy. His appearance was a little lazy, but he was very handsome, making it hard for people to forget him at first glance. Lin Ling. Looking at the young man, everyone in the rainforest's holy land was shocked. Linger, Ancestor Tai Yen and the others were stunned for a moment, and their eyes immediately moistened. Lin Ling was back. Although they knew that Lin Ling would definitely return, they were still extremely excited to see him with their own eyes. My lord! Lord Xuewu and the others also shouted in surprise. Moreover, as the sound spread, the entire rainforest's holy land was in an uproar. Countless warriors walked out crazily and looked at Lin Ling excitedly. In this world, Lin Ling's name could be said to be known by every family. That is Lord Lin Ling. This is the first time I've seen him. He looks so powerful. I'm so excited. I've been in the rainforest's holy land for so many years. I didn't expect that I would have the fortune to see Lord Lin Ling. This is the #1 martial artist in the world. The warriors that were running from afar were all extremely excited. Although many people had never seen Lin Ling, the title of the #1 emperor of the mortal world, the #1 genius, had already entered the textbooks of martial artists. He came from the Heaven Mystics Kingdom and the Ancient Face sect. He fought for his self-esteem and for his family's glory. In a short period of time, he ruled the Heaven Mystics Kingdom and then came to the rainforest's holy land. He rose in the 7 profound martial house, defeated countless prodigies, and became the #1 genius. When the enemy invaded, it was this #1 genius of all ages who resisted the enemy and protected his home. This mythical story had already spread to every corner. Lin Ling. In a short period of time, the world was filled with shouts of worship. The #1 king of the world, Lin Ling, lived up to his name. Lin Ling drank his wine and looked ahead with a smile. When he saw familiar faces and heard excited voices, he felt an inexplicable excitement in his heart. The years of his childhood also floated in his mind. Looking back, he realized that he had unknowingly walked so many roads and braved so many storms. Today he had returned, and the people of his hometown were warmly welcoming him. This feeling was like returning to his hometown in glory. "Everyone, long time no see." Lin Ling took another sip of wine and then waved his hand. "This kid." Looking at the young man who had already become a father, Ancestor Extreme Flame's eyes were moist as he scolded with a smile. No matter what kind of emperor Lin Ling was, in his eyes, he was still his lovable and talented grandson. "Father." He also looked at Lin Ling excitedly. Then, he strode over to Lin Ling and looked at Lin Ling with admiration. Although he had grown up now, in his heart, his father would always be so powerful and magnificent. "Not bad, your strength has increased, and you've grown taller." Lin Ling looked at Lin Yi in a doting manner. He could not help but laugh. He was not a good father. He had been fighting outside all year round. His son's education was not just a little bit lacking. Fortunately, Lin Yi was also very capable and did not disappoint Lin Ling. Lin Yi nodded heavily. "Who are you?" However, at this moment, a dissatisfied voice suddenly sounded, interrupting Lin Ling's family reunion. The person who spoke was Immortal by Crane. He was a little surprised. First, the young man had suddenly arrived and he had not noticed. Second, his Immortal by Crane sect had arrived, and the warriors of this world had reacted indifferently. However, when the young man came, the whole world celebrated. This made him very unhappy. What right did the young man have? Although he could see that the young man was the strongest person in this world, it was obvious that his strength was not enough to enter his eyes. "I am Lin Ling." Lin Ling also raised his head and looked at the old man. "Father, he wants to take me as a disciple, but I don't want to join their sect." Chapter 2535. Accepting Lin Ling as a disciple. "So you are his father. Good, then have your son enter my sect. Of course, you can also raise conditions. For instance, you can also enter my sect. If I test you and your talent is good, then I can reluctantly agree." The old man regained his indifferent expression. Lin Yi didn't know any better, so having his father agree on his behalf wasn't bad at all. Hearing this, Lin Ling was stunned. He said with disbelief, "You want to accept me as a disciple?" This old man's strength was only at the 5th level of the World King realm. Moreover, his talent hadn't even awakened his divine body. He was clearly an ordinary World King realm martial artist. As for the several youths beside him, although they had also reached the World King realm, they weren't even geniuses of 10,000 worlds. They wanted to accept him as a disciple? Lin Ling couldn't help but laugh. However, seeing Lin Ling's smile, the several youths thought that he was happy. They immediately said with disdain, "Don't be happy too early. To enter White Crane Immortal Sect, you must pass a test. You might not be able to succeed. Of course, you don't need to feel inferior. Although your talent is inferior, if your perseverance is good, then you still have hope. Let me tell you something else. Our White Crane Immortal Sect once gave birth to a monstrous genius. He was a genius of 10,000 worlds, and he participated in the examination of the 3 great academies." Another youth proudly said. The old man nodded in satisfaction. This was because that genius of 10,000 worlds was his disciple, and also the most glorious of all his disciples. Then, did he enter the 3 great academies? Lin Ling was stunned once more. He subconsciously asked, "Nonsense. Do you think it's so easy to enter the 3 great academies? You probably don't even know what the 3 great academies are. Let me tell you. If 10,000 worlds wish to enter the 3 great academies, only 3 out of 100 will be able to pass. Even so, having the qualifications to participate in the examination is a form of affirmation." The old man disdainfully smiled. The 3 great academies? Old Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others could faintly hear that these 3 great academies couldn't be underestimated, and their appearance undoubtedly caused the old man to proudly smile. He was already waiting for Lin Ling to kneel down and acknowledge him as his master. Moreover, he was waiting for Lin Ling to look at him with worship. "Father, are the 3 great academies very powerful?" Even Lin Yi looked at Lin Ling solemnly. What he didn't know was that his father was already the 2nd generation of the 3 great academies, and was even the first of the 2nd generation. I was wondering who it was, but it turned out to be an eliminated genius. Lin Ling was speechless. He really didn't know what to say. Then he joked, "If that's the case, then test me now and see if I'm qualified to enter your sect." "So urgent?" The people from White Crane Immortal Sect were stunned. They were even more certain that Lin Ling was impatient to become a disciple. "All right, then I'll give you a chance. Be careful. I'm going to use the white crane martial wind to test you. If you can't withstand it, then just shout out loud." One of the young men walked out and looked at the old man. The old man nodded indifferently. "Don't hurt him. Just test him a little. After all, I'm more interested in his son." With his cultivation, he simply couldn't see through Lin Ling's strength. In addition, Lin Ling came from this world, so he thought that Lin Ling was only SSO. The white crane martial wind's strength comes from a world origin seed. This is the strength of the universe's chaos. It is even fiercer than the laws and can destroy all laws. After the young man walked out, he had the elegant demeanor of a great master. He even swept his eyes over the crowd, wanting to see the awe in their eyes. In fact, old ancestor Extreme Flame and the others revealed dignified expressions. This was because they truly didn't understand the strength of a world king. The young man smiled in satisfaction. His arms danced like a white crane, carrying with them the rhythm of a divine crane. It had to be said that with his strength, if placed in the northern lands, he couldn't be underestimated. But in the martial god world, his strength was clearly weak. What left Lin Ling speechless was that this fellow testing him was fine, but he wasn't even attacking. Instead, he was explaining the mysteries of his martial arts. Was he trying to guide him? Or was he trying to show off? The rhythm of the crane, the clouds, the drifting. Those who understand the universe have infinite power. Hearing these words, Lin Ling couldn't help but interrupt him. "Senior, please hurry up." Are all young people so impatient?" The young man was a bit dissatisfied. He waved his right hand at Lin Ling. "Walala." The power of a world origin spread out, causing this world to sway. Be careful." Old ancestor Extreme Flame and the others immediately broke out in a cold sweat for Lin Ling. "Don't worry. My disciple knows what he's doing. He won't harm him." However, the old man was extremely confident. "Of course, he'll suffer a bit. He'll probably be blown to the ground by the astral winds." The old man had already begun to consider how he would reprimand Lin Ling after Lin Ling failed. After all, if this sort of arrogant junior wasn't suppressed, then his sharp spirit wouldn't be restrained. Walala! The astral winds blew past. No one could stop them. The young man had already turned around and walked towards the old man. "Master, his talent is obviously not as good as Lin Yi's. He can't become a disciple of our sect." His voice was filled with confidence. However, just as he finished speaking, a depressed voice came from the surging astral winds. "It's over." Not only was the voice depressed, it was also mixed with disappointment. Even old ancestor Extreme Flame and the others could hear that tone clearly. Hearing that, the young man's eyes narrowed. He turned around and saw Lin Ling standing there unscathed. He was even drinking. Unscathed? How could he be unscathed? Not to mention the young man. Even the old man's eyes narrowed. The young man was dumbfounded. "Senior, why don't you try again? Maybe your martial prowess wasn't stimulated, or maybe you came from afar and didn't eat breakfast, so you don't have enough strength," Lin Ling said with a serious face, which made the young man even more dumbfounded. Seeing this unbelievable scene, old ancestor Extreme Flame and the others were stunned. Although they didn't know what had happened, they couldn't help but laugh. Previously, the young man was so arrogant. He treated Lin Ling as if he was looking at an ordinary person. In the end, Lin Ling was safe and sound. How ironic. I'll try again." Hearing the ridicule around him, the young man's face turned red and he walked out again. Walala. This time, he obviously used all his strength. But the result was still the same. This made him stand there in a daze. He looked at his father in shock. His father was so powerful? He couldn't help but smile. Previously, the young man arrogantly wanted to test his father and then take him as his disciple. Now, the young man seemed to have slapped his own face. The young man used all his strength, but it was useless against his father. How is this possible? How is this possible? The young man kept shaking his head. It was very embarrassing. "Young man, you're quite capable. Ling Yuan, come back. I'll test him." Chapter 2536. Sage Heavenly Dear, you should have given birth to a world origin seed. No wonder, no wonder. But since this old man has taken action, this is your good fortune. Let me see just how strong you are. As the old man attacked, an even greater astral wind swept out, turning into a white crane that flew towards Lin Ling. "Honorable Master is mighty." His disciple immediately shouted out in adoration. Although it was the same move, The old man's was clearly much stronger. Your foundations are still unstable. After you return, all of you must train in our sect's basic cultivation methods for 10 years. The old man held his hands behind his back as he reprimanded his disciples. In his opinion, if he were to personally take action, Lin Ling should be in a complete mess right now. Is this the end? However, reality was moving in the opposite direction. Lin Ling still had the same words. Under countless gazes, Lin Ling stood there like a pine tree, like an immovable king. He was fine. He was still fine. Even if the White Crane Immortal Sect Master attacked, Lin Ling would still be fine. At this time, the old man's face froze. He couldn't lower his face at all. Before this, he thought that if he were to personally take action, Lin Ling would definitely lose all face. Thus, he reprimanded his disciples. However, the result was that Lin Ling was left speechless. If so, then he would have to train in his sect's basic cultivation methods for 10 years. You have some skill. Come again. The old man's voice turned cold. He raised his strength to the 3rd stage of the World King realm. Walala! Even more horrifying astral winds swept out. But this time, the old man didn't dare to speak arrogantly. Instead, he stubbornly stared forwards, wanting to see the result he was waiting for. Is this the end? But the reply was a sentence that made his lungs explode with anger. Lin Ling was still fine. White Crane 100,000 astral winds. The old man's beard blew up and his eyes turned red. This time, he actually erupted with his full strength. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The world began to sway, terrifying to the extreme. Lord Lin Ling. Boom. Sensing this earth-shattering scene, everyone cried out in alarm. They couldn't help but feel nervous for Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling was still fine. Senior, please don't destroy my hometown. On the contrary, Lin Ling's helpless voice floated out at the same time. Thud, thud, thud. The old man retreated as if he had seen a ghost. When all the astral winds disappeared, he pointed at Lin Ling, speechless. Was this guy an iron pillar? What was he doing? He was sure that with the strength he erupted with just now, even a 5th-level world king would have to be cautious. Senior, is the test over? While he was still in shock, Lin Ling's gloomy voice rang out. Assessment? Was this still an assessment? As long as one was not an idiot, they would know that Lin Ling's strength seemed to be even stronger than the sect master of White Crane Immortal Sect. The youths from the White Crane Immortal Sect were all dumbstruck. They no longer had the arrogance from before. Ironically, with their strength, they actually warned Lin Ling? Yes, Father One. It seems that we don't need to be disciples of the White Crane Immortal Sect anymore. At this moment, Lin Yi's words were like salt sprinkling on a wound. This sentence undoubtedly caused the old man's body to tremble. Accept a disciple? It was only possible if he became someone else's disciple. Master, what should we do now? The youths from the White Crane Immortal Sect bitterly smiled. At this moment, they could neither leave nor stay. Good, you've obviously reached the World King realm, but you're deliberately mystifying and playing with us. The old man simply could not swallow this anger. However, his words made Lin Ling sigh in his heart. Was he playing with them? Throughout the entire process, the White Crane Immortal Sect was the one speaking. They even said that they wanted to take the test. Now that the test had failed, everything was on Lin Ling's head. If it weren't for them being too weak, Lin Ling really wanted to teach them a lesson. White Crane Immortal, have you accepted a disciple? Can you return now? However, at this time, an indifferent voice came from the sky. Then a middle-aged man riding a multicolored divine deer descended from the sky. Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer. Seeing the middle-aged man, the White Crane Immortal was overjoyed. The other party was a master of the martial god world. The reason why the White Crane Immortal could open a market in the martial god world's first ring city was because of the other party's help. Moreover, the other party was stronger than him, so he had to treat him with respect. What's going on? After the middle-aged man walked down, he immediately frowned. He seemed to have seen that the White Crane Immortal had failed to accept a disciple. A dignified 5th-stage World King powerhouse had also failed to accept a disciple. This was too inconceivable. After all, the North Territory was mostly weak, and this territory was one of the weakest. This guy played with me. I want to teach him a lesson. This matter, Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer must stand up for me. With Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer's support, the old man's confidence had increased by a lot. He also knew that if he fought with Lin Ling, he might not be Lin Ling's opponent. However, spiritual master Heavenly Deer could definitely suppress Lin Ling. Oh, someone actually ruined your plans. Spiritual master Heavenly Deer frowned as he looked at Lin Ling. Although he didn't have a deep relationship with the White Crane Immortal, they were in a cooperative relationship. The market in the First Ring City was opened by the White Crane Immortal sect, and he was the fisherman who reaped the benefits, collecting divine crystals every month. Thus, he couldn't allow the White Crane Immortal to lose face. Boy, do you know what fear is? This is spiritual master Heavenly Deer. One of his family members has already become a third-generation student of the Resplendent Academy, and he is ranked 7th. The Resplendent Academy even rewarded him with a market. The White Crane Immortal suddenly laughed. Perhaps because he had lost all face before, he wanted to hold his head high. Spiritual master Heavenly Deer? Lin Ling indifferently looked at the middle-aged man. This man's strength was not bad. He had reached the 9th stage World King realm. Kneel. However, spiritual master Heavenly Deer showed no mercy. He wanted Lin Ling to kneel in front of everyone. Hee. Seeing this, spiritual master Heavenly Deer was excited. The martial artists of this world worshipped Lin Ling. But what if Lin Ling knelt down and begged for mercy? Then the impression that Lin Ling left on everyone would be greatly reduced. Even Lin Yi would begin to doubt his father. Thus, he was looking forward to this scene. You want me to kneel? Lin Ling frowned. Before, he had spoken in a polite tone because spiritual master Heavenly Deer had personally recruited his son as a disciple. Thus he had given him face. But who knew that spiritual master Heavenly Deer would actually want him to kneel? A mere 9th stage world king. You don't have the qualifications to make me kneel. Lin Ling's voice turned icy cold. Those who knew him knew that if Lin Ling spoke in such a tone, then something must have happened. This was the overbearing aura of a king. Subconsciously, Lady Watamist and the others became excited. They had been waiting for such a tone for a long time. A mere 9th stage world king. I don't know what qualifications you have to be so arrogant. Lin Ling took a step forward and unleashed the speed of a world. Then, he threw out a clean punch. How bold. Spiritual master Heavenly Deer didn't think that Lin Ling would attack. Moreover, he didn't use any martial arts and wanted to rely on a single fist to resist him. He, spiritual master Heavenly Deer, had a considerable reputation in the northern lands. How could he fear a country boy? Rumble, rumble, rumble. He also thrust out a palm. But he wanted to directly confront Lin Ling? This was simply seeking death. Deng, deng, deng. Chapter 2537. Lin Ling? One punch. He was sent flying by a single punch from Lin Ling. Lord Lin Ling, you're amazing. The crowd immediately cried out in surprise and excitement when they saw this scene. They had been waiting for this scene for a long time. A long time ago, the rainforest's sacred land was also invaded by foreign enemies, but the overlord Lin Ling defeated them. And now, history was repeating itself. He was still so domineering and proud. No matter who the enemy was, he only needed one punch. What? White Crane's pupils narrowed. After all, Taoist Heavenly Deer's strength was twice his own, yet he'd been blasted flying with a single punch. You sneak attacked me. Boom. Meanwhile, Taoist Tian Lu flew over from afar, and he was furious. Both of his hands immediately moved, displaying a powerful martial art. He didn't believe that a nobody could defeat him. Don't make a move. Wait until I've mastered my martial arts, then you can experience its power. Taoist Heavenly Deer's voice filled the sky, causing the clouds in the sky to drift toward the primal chaos. However, the irony was that he actually asked Lin Ling not to make a move first. Trash, you're already so old. Don't you think it's shameless to say such words? Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others shouted mockingly. Taoist Tian Lu actually told Lin Ling not to attack. Such a thick skin, he still has the nerve to call himself a senior? Humph, he was the one who ambushed me. Right now, I'm preparing my martial arts to counterattack. This is a very normal thing. Taoist Celestial Deer roared. A white ball of light appeared between his hands. It grew larger and larger, and within the ball of light, one could see countless deers galloping. His talent was obviously related to deer. If you can't block it, just shout and I'll spare your life. Then he pushed with both hands. Rumble. The white ball of light was like a world as it shot towards the ground. At this moment, the crowd could feel the terrifying pressure. However, their gazes were still fixed on Lin Ling. They were waiting for the most powerful cultivator in the world to shine and not be underestimated by these outsiders. At the same time, Lin Ling also shot into the sky. After all, if the power reached the ground, it would affect the rainforest's sacred land. Rumble. He took a step into the sky and was immediately entangled by the enormous power. It was as if a blazing sun had appeared in the sky. You overestimate yourself. Taoist Heavenly Deer mocked after seeing this scene, thinking that even if Lin Ling didn't die, he would still be injured. Boom. However, at this moment, a rumbling sound rang out. Under countless gazes, the blazing sun was forcefully blown apart, and a figure in a blue and white robe walked out from within. Is this all you've got? The entire sky could hear Lin Ling's tyrannical voice. Is that all you've got? His voice was filled with contempt, sarcasm, and disdain. At this moment, the hearts of Lin Yi and the others were thumping wildly. They were so excited that they smiled silently. So what if Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer was preparing his martial arts? Lin Ling had also easily broken through. As for Immortal White Crane and Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer, their expressions were smug at first, but they gradually turned to surprise, then shock, and finally horror. This was because if Lin Ling had forcefully counterattacked and broken through Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer's attack, then Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer wouldn't have been surprised. But Lin Ling had used his body to forcefully resist, forcefully withstanding the attack of a 9th-level world king. Just who could accomplish this? Divine light protecting your body? You have an awakened divine body. Then, Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer finally saw just how terrifying Lin Ling was. You think I need to sneak attack you? At this time, Lin Ling's complexion was icy cold. He stepped forwards and punched out once more. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A formidable strength surged forth, blotting out the skies. This fist caused Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer to vomit blood once more as he crashed into the ground. I told you to prepare your martial arts, and yet you use such trash moves? Lin Ling shot down like a meteor, stomping down on Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer, who had just crawled back up. You dare to injure me? I am from the Tian family. My Tian family has a genius that is a 3rd-generation disciple of Radiant Academy. Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer finally realized just how terrifying Lin Ling was. But he still didn't fear Lin Ling because he was from the Tian family. Although this family wasn't famous in Martial God world, it was like a royal family in the northern lands. Even if you are from the Tian family, you will still kneel before me today. Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't care at all. Who are you? Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer roared. He wasn't an idiot. If this youth was so strong, and he didn't fear him even though he was from the Tian family, could his background be great? Lin Ling lifted his foot from Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer's body, looking down at him. Lin Ling. Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer was stunned. He recalled this name and then cried out in alarm. Could you be the number 1 monstrous genius of Radiant Academy? The number 1 rookie of the 2nd generation? His family had a 3rd-generation 7th existence, and every time that genius returned home, he would say that there were even more powerful geniuses in Radiant Academy, and one of those geniuses was Lin Ling. In fact, that genius even participated in the battle at the Great Azure Divine Dynasty's drill ground, and personally witnessed Lin Ling dominating the drill ground. Most importantly, the marketplace that he and Immortal White Crane had opened together was not far from the Rainforest Marketplace. He remembered that when they opened, he had personally inquired about the Rainforest Marketplace in an attempt to curry favor with them and ask for a favor. Ironically, the shopkeeper of the Rainforest Market was right in front of him. Lin Ling, please be magnanimous and spare my life. Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer hurriedly got up and kowtowed. This scene stunned Patriarch Extreme Flame and the others on the spot. Even the people from Immortal White Crane's sect looked like their parents had died, and their faces were filled with confusion. Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer lost, and that was fine, but he actually took the initiative to kneel and beg for mercy? It wasn't hard to make a martial artist admit defeat, but to make a martial artist kneel and beg for mercy, that wasn't easy at all. Pa! Lin Ling stomped on Reverend Heavenly Deer's shoulder, forcing him to the ground. You're so arrogant, coming to my territory and asking me to kneel without asking for a reason. If it weren't for the fact that I'm not Lin Ling, I'm afraid you'd teach me a lesson today. Pa! Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer's face was already on the ground, but he didn't dare to be arrogant and begged for mercy. Pa! Make those people from Immortal White Crane sect kneel as well. Lin Ling continued. Previously, he had spoken nicely, but now his patience had been exhausted by them. Ah, me? Pa! Immortal White Crane was still confused, but they weren't fools. They could see that this Lin Ling wasn't simple. Are you kneeling or not? Lin Ling said indifferently. Kneel, kneel, kneel immediately. Pa! Immortal White Crane and the rest didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly knelt. Their hearts were bitter. They never thought that recruiting a disciple would end up in such a situation. Their face was thrown into the chaos of the universe. Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer was still being stepped on by Lin Ling, but he looked at Immortal White Crane with resentment. This guy wanted to take Lin Ling's son as a disciple. He was really seeking death. Chapter 2538. The Pride of the Rainforest's Sacred Land. Ah, hand over all your treasures. I have a lot of divine crystals on me. Hearing this, Immortal White Crane let out a cry of horror. As the leader of a sect and the owner of the market, he naturally had all his wealth on him. So, you choose the first option. Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. Lin Ling nodded. Immortal White Crane, you're fucking courting death. Taoist Master Heavenly Deer immediately cursed. He was furious. This whole thing was caused by this Immortal White Crane. Even after kicking an iron plate, he still doesn't know his mistake. He's simply courting death. Most importantly, he's implicated me. Immortal White Crane, Immortal White Crane. How could I be so blind to cooperate with you to open a market? Once Lin Ling is angry, I'm afraid the entire Tian family will be buried with him. Immortal White Crane immediately realized the horror of the situation. He quickly cowed out and said, Yes, 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 I'll give it to you immediately. Yes. Do you still want to take my son as your disciple? Yes. Lin Ling lightly nodded and looked at Immortal White Crane. I wouldn't dare. Immortal White Crane suddenly smiled bitterly. He didn't even have the courage to look at Linny now, because it was too embarrassing. Well, now get out of this world. If you step into this world again in your lifetime, I'll kill your whole family. You'd better tell everyone you know that whoever dares to behave atrociously in my territory will be killed no matter how far away they are. Lin Ling nodded again, but his voice became cold. This world was his hometown, his reverse scale. No one could invade here. If anyone dared to behave atrociously here, kill. Looking at Lin Ling's domineering appearance, Ancestor Taiyan and the others all laughed. This was the #1 sovereign in their world. Domineering and imposing enough. This world was peaceful because of his domineering attitude. I'll never come here again. Spiritual Master Heavenly Deer and Immortal White Crane didn't need Lin Ling's reminder. Even if they were invited, they wouldn't dare to come. Then they climbed up in a sorry state, led their disciples, Immortal White Crane and Deer, and wanted to escape from this place. However, they had only taken a few steps when Lin Ling's cold voice came. Immortal White Crane. Stop! Immortal White Crane and Immortal White Crane were frightened by this young man. I wasted so much saliva earlier, so you should at least give me some compensation. Leave these white cranes and divine deer behind, so that my family and friends can have a taste of the divine beasts of chaos. Lin Ling said Immortal White Crane, and Immortal White Crane, and Immortal White Crane. Immortal White Crane? Immortal White Crane, Immortal White Crane, and Immortal White Crane. One of them was called the Heavenly Deer, and the other was called the White Crane. It was precisely because their mounts were the divine deer and the white crane that they were going to be slaughtered now. Immortal White Crane, seeing their dumbfounded expressions, Lin Ling frowned. Immortal, the two of them smiled bitterly. They abandoned the divine deer and the red-crowned crane and fled in panic. Immortal White Immortal, Immortal White Immortal, Immortal White Crane, Immortal Immortals Immortal, Immortal White Crane. Immortal, however, after a short moment of silence, the crowd erupted into cheers. Everyone stared at the proud young man. Many people were excited, and some older cultivators even had tears in their eyes. It was because of Lin Ling that they had such a stable home. Ling, you stinking brat, you've made your grandfather worry for nothing. In the distance, Ancestor Extreme Flame couldn't help but laugh and curse as he strode over. Hee. Facing his grandfather, Lin Ling was still like a child. He rubbed the back of his head and smiled excitedly. Father, you're amazing. I've said it before. If I want a master, my father is the best one. Lin Ling was obviously more excited than anyone else. Beside him, Huang Ying looked at Lin Ling in horror. She didn't expect Lin Yi's father to be so powerful. Not only did the enemy's invasion fail, they even plundered all of their assets. How bold, how bold. This is a true martial artist of my generation. All right, today we will kill the divine deer and the immortal crane. At this time, Lin Ling was speaking with familiar faces. Then he looked at everyone, causing their spirits to rise even higher. Moreover, the divine crystals he had extorted from White Crane Immortal Sect could be left to his grandfather and the others so that they could increase their strength. What is your current strength? Ancestor Extreme Flame couldn't help but ask. As his voice fell, all other voices died away. Everyone was filled with anticipation. 8th level of the World King Realm. Lin Ling didn't hide this. This caused Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others to smile with pride. Although they didn't know what the 8th level of the World King Realm was, it was clearly far more fierce than White Crane Immortal Sect's 5th level of the World King Realm. Moreover, within the World King Realm, I am invincible. However, Lin Ling's next words left everyone shocked. Invincible. These two words were clearly easier to understand. Lin Ling was invincible within the entire Great Boundary. Good. Ancestor Extreme Flame's old face lit up with excitement. He knew that the Northern Lands had countless worlds. Their world was very ordinary in the Northern Lands. However, Lin Ling, who was born in this world, had arrived at Martial God World and bloomed with a dazzling radiance. Not only was Ancestor Extreme Flame proud, but even Lady Water Mist and everyone else in the mortal world were proud. This was because Lin Ling represented them. That night, the Rainforest Holy Land was bustling with activity. Moreover, people from the mortal worlds 3 Mystic, Ghost World, Demon World, and Divine World all arrived one after another. It could be said that Lin Ling had returned alone. The world was in turmoil. Many familiar faces came to visit Lin Ling. For instance, the Demon World's Great Demon King of the East, the Divine World's Immortal Divine Kingdom, and so forth. It could only be said that Lin Ling's growth had left behind far too many footprints in this world. The Ghost World, Divine World, Demon World, Myriad Saint Region. All of them had his shadow. That night, Lin Ling accompanied his friends and chatted with them about what had happened in Martial God World. Although he described it simply, many people still felt that it was shocking. You will be fine. When they heard that a Nuer had gone missing, Ancestor Extreme Flame, and the others were very worried. She will be fine. As long as I find the location of the Immortal Temple, I will personally go and find her. No matter where she is, I will not stop looking for her. Speaking of a Nuer, Lin Ling thought of the White Fox. He firmly believed that a Nuer must be waiting for him somewhere in Huanyu, just like the White Fox. All right, we believe in you. Lin Ling's mother, Mo Nianchen, looked at Lin Ling with gratification. Yuman Yun, Qin Xiaolan, and the others held Lin Ling's hand and cherished this hard-won time. Lin Ling felt extremely guilty towards them and immediately smiled at them. Only when night fell did everyone leave. Lin Ling held Yu Mengyun and Yu Mengyun's hands and entered the room together. After a busy period, he hugged his 2 beautiful wives' alluring figures and chatted merrily with them. After the incident with the White Fox, Lin Ling cherished the women around him even more. These beautiful wives waited for Lin Ling without any complaints and silently contributed. Lin Ling had such confidence in his life. What regrets did he have? Lin Ling, we don't blame you. We know that you still have a lot of things to do. We can wait. When you rule the world in the chaos of Huanyu, we will accompany you to travel the world. Yu Menyun looked at her man and said, All right, I promise you. Chapter 2539. Seeing Lu Susu again, Lin Ling, big sister Susu has already left. I don't know where she went. Qin Xiaolan leaned against Lin Ling's arm. The big sister Susu she was talking about was Lu Susu. Lu Susu had helped Lin Ling many times in the past. Anyone could see that she liked Lin Ling. However, after Lin Ling broke through, he immediately entered the martial god realm and did not give her any promise or reply. This made her heart die. She could not compare to Yu Menyun and the others, because Yu Menyun and the others were Lin Ling's wives and had status, while she was nothing. Therefore, as long as she was a woman with dignity, she would not dare to force herself to stay here. She has waited for you for a long time. Yu Menyun also said, We don't mind her fighting for you. The most important thing is that she has indeed done a lot for you. Hearing this, Lin Ling thought of that intelligent and charming woman, and he could not help but sigh softly. In reality, how could he not know about Lu Susu's feelings? However, at that time, he had started to restrain himself, so he had not replied to Lu Susu. After the incident with the white fox, he knew that some things would still be broken. She has already left. Perhaps she has also gotten over it. Lin Ling said indifferently. No, she might have left to look for you. Yu Yun said in Lin Ling's ear, causing Lin Ling to let out a long sigh. His gaze seemed to pass through a world, searching for Lu Susu in the three profound realms of the human realm. Tomorrow, I will look for her. After a while, Lin Ling muttered to himself. It was already late at night. Lin Ling watched his two beautiful wives fall asleep, and he also slowly began to cultivate. Over the years, he had already formed a habit. As long as he was free, he would seize the time to cultivate. And the goal of this cultivation was to cultivate the evil god transformation. However, even though Lin Ling was very familiar with this fire-type cultivation technique, when he wanted to cultivate to the third stage, an invisible door blocked Lin Ling. The level of the awakened godly body is too low. Lin Ling instantly knew the reason, and could not help but feel depressed. It seemed that before the awakened godly body leveled up, the evil flame transformation would be very difficult to improve. Early in the morning of the second day, Lin Ling left. He had the speed of a world, which allowed him to travel through this world quickly. At this moment, in the former divine realm, a slender figure was striding forward. She wore a purple robe and her face was covered with a veil. Every move she made was filled with the charm of a woman. Wherever she went, many martial artists would secretly lick their lips. However, they could not wait. They was still very much looking was a woman's beauty, was a 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 beauty. Unfortunately, the woman's pace was not fast, but with a mysterious rhythm, she quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Susu, your cultivation has already reached the peak of the martial emperor realm. Perhaps you can find a way to create a boundary origin seed, but you've already walked for a long time. How about I take you on the path of a martial god? When the woman appeared on a mountain peak, a young man wearing neat armor appeared there with a smile, looking at the woman with longing in his eyes. This woman was someone he met by chance when he was passing by the North Territory. At that time, he was attracted by her beauty. This woman was intelligent, charming, and elegant, and he wanted nothing more than to hold her hand and grow old together. However, this woman seemed easy to talk to, but when he wanted to take the next step, this woman rejected him. And when he wanted to move her with sincerity, he realized that this woman already had someone in her heart. This was the reason why this woman rejected him. He thought that after time, everything would be diluted, but he realized that it was very difficult. At that moment, he was very jealous of that man, and he was not willing to accept it. He was a genius from the martial god realm. How could he not be compared to that man? Zhang Yu, you should leave. The woman looked into the distance and said indifferently, Haha, I won't leave. I believe that one day, you will understand my heart. The young man called Zhang Yu said sincerely. However, the woman sighed and shook her head. So what if she understood? Her heart had long belonged to that man. Long time no see, female profiteer. However, at that moment, a laugh suddenly sounded, causing the woman to tremble. It was a very familiar voice. She could not help but turn her head, and she saw that a handsome young man had appeared on the mountain peak. He carried an ancient sword on his back, and he was wearing a blue and white robe. There was a faint smile on his handsome face, and he was as carefree and confident as before. Lin Ling. Lu Susu cried out in surprise, and her heart started to beat violently. She thought that she would never see this young man again in her life, and she thought that she would forget about him. However, when everything appeared in front of her eyes, she still couldn't control her emotions. Bits and pieces of the past came rushing back like the tide. How have you been? Lin Ling sighed inwardly as he looked at Lu Susu's beautiful face. His gaze fell on the man beside Lu Susu, and he suddenly had a guess. Man. Perhaps Lu Susu had already found her other half. Lin Ling felt that it was a pity, but he did not think much of it. After all, feelings could not be forced. Lu Susu had waited for Lin Ling for so long, and he, Lin Ling, had not made any promises because he was busy. Therefore, Lin Ling had no right to care so much. I'm fine. Lu Susu looked at Lin Ling and replied with a smile. For a moment, the two of them were silent. They both had their own thoughts. Zhang Yu's expression became uglier and uglier. Just as Lin Ling was about to leave, he stepped forward and said, You are the man that Susu has been thinking about day and night. Kneel down." At this moment, Zhang Yu was furious. He had finally seen the man in Lu Susu's heart. He was jealous, and he was even more indignant. Therefore, he instantly attacked Lin Ling. Zhang Yu no. When Lu Susu saw Zhang Yu attack, she could not help but cry out anxiously. Zhang Yu came from the martial god realm. It was said that he was a genius from a certain school. If he attacked, how could Lin Ling stop him? However, it would have been better if she did not shout. The more she shouted, the angrier Zhang Yu became. At this moment, Lin Ling was stunned. He had thought that Lu Susu already had her other half, but that man had said that he, Lin Ling, was the man that Lu Susu had been thinking about day and night. This meant that Lu Susu still had not let go of him. If Lu Susu no longer had him in her heart, then Lin Ling would definitely leave. However, Lu Susu still cared about him. How could Lin Ling let her down? At this moment, Lin Ling smiled. He did not even look at Zhang Yu and walked forward step by step. Bang! At the same time, Zhang Yu's attack landed on Lin Ling's body. However, a powerful aura rebounded and domineeringly sent Zhang Yu flying. He smashed into the ground and spat out blood. His face was full of shock. After all, he was the second generation of Heavenly Saint Academy. How could he not injure an unfamiliar young man? Chapter 2540. Return to Qingzhou. Who exactly are you? Zhang Yu roared. Suddenly, he muttered to himself, Lin Ling, the man that Lu Susu likes is called Lin Ling. Could he be the second-generation prodigy of the Resplendent Academy, Lin Ling? His heart was pounding. He had heard of the name Lin Ling before, but he did not expect him to be the same person as the man in Lu Susu's heart. At this moment, his heart was dead. If the man in Lu Susu's heart was trash, then he must get Lu Susu. However, that man was Lin Ling, the rising prodigy of the three academies, Lin Ling. He could not compare. He watched as Lin Ling walked toward Lu Susu. He finally got up, sighed, and turned to leave. At this moment, he had completely given up on Lu Susu. He knew that he would never be able to get Lu Susu. Zhang Yu. Lu Susu could not help but shout as she watched Zhang Yu leave. Although she did not like Zhang Yu, she was still grateful that he had been secretly protecting her. Susu, if he is the man in your heart, I can't compare. Zhang Yu's face dimmed. Then he sighed and disappeared into the sky. Lu Susu looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. She did not expect Zhang Yu to know Lin Ling and be so afraid of Lin Ling. What kind of terrifying thing had Lin Ling done in the martial god realm? At this moment, Lin Ling did not care about Zhang Yu at all. He smiled at Lu Susu and said, Female profiteer, I'm sorry to have made you wait for so long. If possible, I hope you can be my woman. This time, Lin Ling did not beat around the bush. Instead, he asked openly. He and Lu Susu had known each other for so long, so it was better to go straight to the point. However, his words were sincere. Lu Susu's body trembled when she heard this. Her long eyelashes twitched as she looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. In fact, she had been waiting for this sentence for a long time. She liked Lin Ling. Moreover, she felt that Lin Ling also had a good impression of her, but Lin Ling had never confirmed their relationship. This put her in a dilemma. After all, no matter what, she was still a woman with dignity. It was impossible for her to send herself to him. And now Lin Ling finally spoke. That sentence made her feel that everything was worth it. I agree. Lu Susu hurriedly took a step forward and looked at Lin Ling with a blushing face. In the past, she had been the hall master of the Heavenly Palace and had long been accustomed to grand scenes. However, at this moment, her heart was pounding wildly. She was indeed a complete blank when it came to relationships between men and women. Lin Ling took the initiative this time. He took a step forward and hugged Lu Susu. Feeling the warmth of Lu Susu's body, he relaxed as if he had solved a knot in his heart. After the incident with the white fox, he knew that he had to give an explanation to all the women. Now that Lu Susu's problem was solved, he had nothing to worry about anymore. The only one left was Anuer. You have reached the peak of the martial emperor realm. It seems that you have been working hard during this period. Hugging Lu Susu and feeling her voluptuous body, Lin Ling could not help but feel restless. He quickly spoke. Yes, because I also want to go to the martial god realm. Lu Susu's face was flushed red. At this moment, she lifted her head and looked at Lin Ling as she spoke. All right, I will give you the path to the martial god realm to comprehend the boundary seed. What do you think? Great, If I can produce the boundary seed, won't I be able to go to the martial god realm like Princess Hualing? Of course. While Lu Susu was pleasantly surprised, Lin Ling waved his right hand. Immediately, there was a roar and the path to the martial god realm appeared in the sky. It was mysterious and ancient. You are so powerful. Lu Susu did not expect Lin Ling to open the path to the martial god realm with a wave of his hand. This filled her with admiration. Her man did not disappoint her. Go, find your own path to the martial god realm. I will wait for you in the martial god realm's Qing prefecture. Lin Ling patted Lu Susu's perky buttocks and said with a smile, Bad guy. Yes. Lu Susu rolled her eyes at Lin Ling and walked towards the path to the martial god realm. When she was about to enter, she looked at Lin Ling reluctantly and said, Lin Ling, are you going to wait for me? Yes. I will wait for you. Even if the world ends, I will wait for you to come back. Yes. Lin Ling thought of White Fox and immediately promised that he would not let the woman beside him wait for him for endless years. Absolutely not. If anyone dared to stop him, he would kill them all. Yes, I believe in you. Yes. Lu Susu's eyes also became moist. She knew that Lin Ling rarely made promises, but he was a man of his word. If he said he would definitely do it. At this moment, her uneasy heart also calmed down. Like duckweed in the sea, she found a stable harbor. And that harbor was Lin Ling. Looking at Lu Susu, who was almost moved to tears, Lin Ling felt even more guilty. He quickly took out a ring and threw it to Lu Susu. There was a large amount of divine crystals in the ring, enough for Lu Susu to use for her cultivation. I know you are greedy. Are these divine crystals enough? You are the greedy one. Wow, so many divine crystals. Are these betrothal gifts? All right then, I'll marry you. Lu Susu put the ring on her jade finger and finally walked on the path to the martial god realm. Looking at the disappearing figure, Lin Ling could not help but smile warmly. Then he thought of Lu Chun of the Creator Alliance. That lord was very powerful and was also someone who could destroy the world for his lover. That was a true warrior of my generation. If Lin Ling's strength was monstrous, then he would also protect everything domineeringly. Then, Lin Ling disappeared and appeared in the rainforest's sacred land. He left behind a large amount of cultivation techniques and divine crystals. After giving Lin Yi and the others some guidance, he left the rainforest's sacred land. Now, it was time for him to return to Qing province. Moreover, Lin Ling's strength had increased greatly. He was now strong enough to dominate the second generation. His goal was to become one of the first generation. For example, the 9 heavens of Qing province. Qing province was still bustling with noise and excitement. During this period of time, all kinds of geniuses had risen in the 3 great academies like bamboo shoots after a rain. Other than being surprised by the strength of those geniuses, people were not surprised by the sudden emergence of geniuses in the 3 great academies. Because every genius that appeared in the 3 great academies was an existence that could create miracles. Qing province was also the birthplace of miracles. When Lin Ling appeared in the rainforest market, Gong Yangjiang and the others were delighted. Yu Yu, Xian Yuan Geber, and the others were also there. They all cried out in surprise as they looked at Lin Ling, not bad. Yu Yu has already reached the peak of the World King realm, and Gub has reached the 7th stage of the World King realm. Very good. Lin Ling swept his eyes over everyone and nodded with satisfaction. Besides Yu Yu and the others, falling flowers and flowing water sword strength had also greatly increased. Lord Lin Ling, you've returned. As for Tang Yue, as soon as she learned that Lin Ling had returned, she immediately rushed over. Seeing this, Lin Ling also greeted Tang Yue. My lord, you've broken through 2 levels. I wonder just how strong you are? The chess boy curiously asked as he looked at Lin Ling. Every time Lin Ling left, his boundary would rise by a great deal after he returned. This caused the chess boy to worship him greatly. My strength is just SOSO. Chapter 2541. Zhuang Baifen, however, she didn't say it out loud. After all, the 4 commanderies had been investigating what had happened in the 9-dragon realm. Except for the square commandery, no one knew that those cultivators had died because of Lin Ling. Therefore, some things were better kept hidden, unless Lin Ling wanted to say it himself. In fact, Lin Ling didn't plan on hiding anything. The fact that he was able to dominate the 2nd generation would be known by everyone sooner or later. After all, he had too many enemies. Other than those in the heavenly court, There were also the Marquis of Sovereign Justice, Tating Commandery, and other powerful forces. Once the enemy came knocking on his door, it would be impossible for Lin Ling to hide his strength. "Let's go back to Resplendent Academy," Lin Ling said. It had been a long time since he had returned to the Resplendent Academy. In addition, his demonic flame transformation was currently stuck at a bottleneck. Therefore, he wanted to go to the Resplendent Academy to see if it would be of any help. All right. Everyone nodded in agreement. The Resplendent Academy was still bustling with noise as geniuses were born one after another, shocking the entire academy. After Lin Ling and the others arrived, the gazes of the geniuses along the way swept over. After all, there were as many geniuses as there were clouds here, but no one was like Lin Ling and the rest, entering the academy so casually. The hunter shoots the bird that sticks out. This principle was applicable everywhere. Moreover, geniuses were proud and arrogant. The more they saw an opponent with a sharp spirit, the more they wanted to suppress them. Perhaps this would give them a sense of accomplishment. Who are those people? The Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword, one of the strongest among the 3 generations, and D by MO. That beautiful girl is the scariest. Her name is Yu. She's an existence that cannot be underestimated among the new talents of the 2nd generation. Yu. Could the handsome young man beside her be Lin Ling? Many geniuses cried out in surprise. Lin Ling's name was known by quite a few people in the Resplendent Academy. It was said that he had the fastest cultivation speed in history, going from the last generation to the 2nd generation in just 10 years. Isn't he dead? Where did you hear this rumor? He just hasn't come to Resplendent Academy for a long time. It's said that he defeated Senior Sister Si Xuanmei and made Senior Dandelion, Senior Ancestor Dragon Granny, and even the Vice Dean think highly of him. It looks like he's very ordinary. He's just an 8th-level realm king. Many people secretly said. Some doubted Lin Ling's strength, and some worshipped Lin Ling. Among the 3 generations, several figures also appeared under a large tree. At this moment, they were clearly extremely dim and could only look up at the distant figures. They were none other than Sword Tyrant, young Master Long Lin, and the others from the Dandelion Palace. These people were all top existences in the 3rd generation. But facing Lin Ling, they didn't even have the qualifications to raise their heads and look up. His strength has increased again. I'm afraid he's above average among the 2nd generation. That's not necessarily true. He has become a rising star of the 2nd generation. It can only be said that he can't be underestimated among the 2nd generation. However, there are many 2nd generation geniuses, and there are many who are stronger than him. That's right. He's showing off his ability, but doesn't know how to restrain himself. He'll definitely suffer. Sword Tyrant and the others coldly snorted. They dared to be arrogant among the 3rd generation, but in the entire Resplendent Academy, they didn't have the qualifications to raise their heads and speak. Their strength was inferior to Lin Ling's, so they hoped that others would suppress Lin Ling's spirit. I didn't expect your reputation to rise so quickly after the battle on the drill ground. At this moment, Queen Qianji's voice resounded in Lin Ling's mind. She had returned to the rainforest's sacred ground with Lin Ling and witnessed everything that Lin Ling had sacrificed for his homeland. This had changed her view of Lin Ling, especially when she saw Lin Ling personally go to Lu Susu. At that time, she was somewhat envious of Lu Susu. After all, to Lin Ling, although Lu Susu was beautiful and charming, she was actually very ordinary. In fact, if Lin Ling was weak, there would be more powerful girls pursuing Lin Ling in the Resplendent Academy. However, Lin Ling didn't forget the old. He took the initiative to go to Lu Susu and confess his feelings. Such a loyal and affectionate man was the dream partner of every girl. Compared to the Sovereign Marquis, my reputation is nothing. Lin Ling smiled casually, which made Queen Qianji fall silent. Lin Ling was indeed famous in the Resplendent Academy. However, compared to the ancient martial artists of the Great Azure Dynasty, Lin Ling was still too young. When the Sovereign Marquis was mentioned, Queen Qianji's murderous intent rose to the sky. This made Lin Ling feel that the hatred between Queen Qianji and the Sovereign Marquis was not small. Senior Lin Ling, right? I'm a rising star of the 2nd generation. I'm here to learn from you. At this moment, a smile was heard. Although it was said that the hunter would shoot the bird that stood out, there were always people who didn't believe in heresy, especially the rising stars of the 2nd generation. They preferred to challenge the difficulties. Therefore, someone stepped forward. Seeing this, the crowd was shocked. Someone dared to challenge Lin Ling at this moment? It's Zhuang Baifan. However, when the crowd's eyes fell on the young man, they felt that everything was normal. It's him. Xian Yuan Geber murmured beside Lin Ling. Then she immediately explained, Lin Ling, 1 year after you became a rising star of the second generation, there was a battle between the third generation and the second generation in the Resplendent Academy. The young man who won first place is also a rising star of the second generation. The difference is that you are a rising star of the second generation in the 3 academies, while Zhuang Baifan is a rising star of the second generation in the Resplendent Academy. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded in understanding. But he was also a bit depressed. They were both rising stars of the second generation. So what was the point of challenging each other? Zhuang Baifan challenged Lin Ling. Both of them are rising stars of the second generation. But Lin Ling's talent is clearly higher. Zhuang Baifan shouldn't be his match. That's not necessarily true. Geniuses like to do things that exceed the norm. For instance, Lin Ling defeated Si Xuanmei and won with his status as a junior. Why can't Zhuang Baifan do the same? That's true. The crowd began to discuss. At this moment, they didn't think that Zhuang Baifan was overestimating himself. I, Zhuang Baifan, am at the 10th stage of the World King realm. I have a 2nd grade awakened divine body, and I also have a high 3rd grade martial skill. I would like to ask senior apprentice brother Lin Ling for guidance. The youth walked forward step by step, playing with 2 steel beads in his hands. His expression was extremely calm. He had already heard of Lin Ling's great name, but seeing him today left him a bit disappointed. After all, Lin Ling was only at the 8th stage of the World King realm. Although Lin Ling had the ability to jump realms to fight, so did he. I'm sorry, I'm not free. However, Lin Ling shook his head and led the crowd forward once more. You don't dare? Hearing this, Zhuang Baifan was stunned. He didn't think this would be the result. Senior apprentice brother Lin Ling, you are currently ranked 42nd out of the 70,000 second-generation juniors of the Resplendent Academy. As for me, I am ranked 56th. Sooner or later, I will surpass you. Moreover, you can rest assured that in the Resplendent Academy, you won't die. If this were outside, you would have been killed by me. So, this is a battle that should come. Yes. Chapter 2542. A 2nd grade awakened godly body. The Resplendent Academy had 70,000 second-generation students, and Lin Ling was ranked 42nd. This was also the reason why Lin Ling's name could shake the Resplendent Academy. Being ranked 42nd out of 70,000 wasn't a simple matter. Zhuang Baifan, right? Although I admit that you have some skills, it's better to keep a low profile. Otherwise, you'll only embarrass yourself. Sigh. At this moment, Lin Ling stopped in his tracks and frowned as he looked at his opponent. Zhuang Baifan actually said that he would have to face this battle sooner or later. Lin Ling wouldn't die in this battle, but in the future battle outside Resplendent Academy, Lin Ling might die. This was a threat. A rising star dared to threaten Lin Ling? Of course, Lin Ling had to admit that Zhuang Baifan did have some skills. At the very least, his strength wasn't much weaker than Yu Yu's. In terms of cultivation time, Zhuang Baifan's cultivation time was shorter than Yu Yu's. In this aspect, he was much more powerful than Yu Yu. It seemed that there were many geniuses in Qing province, and Lin Ling wasn't the only one who could create miracles. Haha, low profile? Senior brother Lin Ling, we must have heard wrongly. The rise of a genius must surpass countless seniors. How can a low profile achieve all this? Hearing Lin Ling's words, Zhuang Baifan couldn't help but laugh sarcastically. His words made many people nod. Resplendent Academy was a place to nurture martial gods. Who would keep a low profile here? If one had the strength, who wouldn't keep a high profile? Only by keeping a high profile would one be valued by the Academy. Moreover, being high profile was a kind of aura, an aura of bravery. Hearing this, Lin Ling shook his head. His so-called low profile wasn't low profile towards himself, but towards his opponent. Because if his opponent could make a name for himself, then he must have some ability. Unless he had absolute confidence, it was better to treat him seriously. Lin Ling was obviously more mysterious and famous than Zhuang Baifan. The latter should keep a low profile. The so-called low profile is actually a coward who is afraid of trouble. At that moment, a voice came from behind Zhuang Baifan. Lin Ling looked over, and saw a familiar face. Ho Xiaoyan. Especially Xian Yuan Gober. She was even more familiar with that person. It was because in the past, when she became the last generation, Ho Xiaoyan also became the last generation. Moreover, because of jealousy, she had a conflict with her. Later on, Lin Ling came and ruthlessly humiliated her. And now, she had stood out to speak. It was obvious that she had a close relationship with Zhuang Baifan. At this moment, Ho Xiaoyan also saw Xian Yuan Gober. Her eyes were filled with pride. Finally, she looked at Lin Ling and said, "This Lin Ling can't even protect his own woman. If he isn't a coward, then what is he?" There was a hidden meaning behind her words. Is she talking about Inuo? Hearing this, many people immediately guessed. In the previous battle at the drill ground, Lin Ling fought for Inuo, so they knew about this matter. His woman is dead, but he doesn't even dare to kill Si Xuanmei. Poor Inuo, she actually entrusted herself to such a person. I'm afraid her bones are not even cold yet. Ho Xiaoyan laughed again. Her words were vicious. Is he still a man? Xiaoyan, if someone bullies you like this, I will kill my way to the 9 heavens. Zhuang Baifan immediately replied. His words were filled with boundless arrogance, as if he was saying that Lin Ling was a coward. At this moment, Xian Yuan Gober and the others were furious. Sister Yu was not dead yet, but they actually said that Sister Yuber was dead. How despicable. You want to fight, right? I'll accompany you. Yu's eyes were wet. She gritted her teeth and walked forward step by step. However, just as she moved, a cold voice came from beside her. Let me. Lin Ling had already walked forward. Compared to Yu and Xian Yuan Gober's anger, Lin Ling's anger was boiling. He did not want to fight before because it was meaningless. Everyone's strength was about the same. If he wanted to fight, he would challenge someone stronger, who knew that Zhuang Baifan would be so aggressive and force him to fight. He even cursed in Yuer. This obviously angered Lin Ling. Let me tell you first. You will lose very, very miserably. I hate your mouth. I want to break all your teeth. Lin Ling said as he walked. His voice was extremely cold. Anyone could hear that he was angry. You say it nicely. If you can't do it, it will be even more embarrassing, Senior Lin Ling. Zhuang Baifan was not afraid. In fact, he emphasized the words senior brother. However, at this moment, Lin Ling finally moved. Boom. The space-time fire, like the flame of his anger, exploded. The fire fist descended and destroyed everything in its path. Everyone in the area felt the heat. The fire seemed to come from the chaos of the universe. A second grade awakened godly body. Many people cried out in surprise. This proved that Lin Ling's strength was indeed not weak. I have one too. However, Zhuang Baifan was not weak either. The 9 directions universe mirror appeared above his head and illuminated the sky. On the ground, a huge illusion of the 8 trigrams appeared. It was sacred and majestic. 1,000 opportunities Big Dipper physique. A second grade awakened godly body. With this talent, Zhuang Baifan could distinguish the ordinary geniuses. Boom. Lin Ling's fist seemed to be blocked by something. It could not go any further. Senior Lin Ling, do you know how powerful I am? Seeing this, Zhuang Baifan sneered. Hearing this, Lin Ling did not waste any time. He raised his fist and attacked again like a god of war. However, the 8 trigrams in the sky flowed and formed a complicated pattern. It blocked Lin Ling's attack again. The 1,000 Trickeries North Dipper body forms the 8 trigrams mirror array. Its defense is extremely strong. Last time, during the Battle of Dragons and Tigers, Zhuang Baifan used this talent to defeat all his opponents. Then Zhuang Baifan is undefeatable? The crowd discussed animatedly. Zhuang Baifan was ranked around 50 out of the 2nd generation. His strength was not to be underestimated. It's impossible to be undefeatable. I think the only way to defeat Zhuang Baifan is by remaining unchanged. Someone said, this person was one of the 2nd generation geniuses. He was quite famous. However, right now his face was serious, because even he could not find a way to defeat it. Boom, boom, boom. Just then, Lin Ling's aggressive attack arrived again and caused a commotion. Everyone saw that Lin Ling was still attacking crazily, as if he would not give up until he reached the Yellow River. However, the result was that it was useless. The 8 trigrams light protection was 10 times more powerful than the 8 trigrams light protection. In the chaotic world, every talent had its own heaven-defying power. Some were good at offense, some were good at defense, some were good at speed, and some were good at the 5 elements. Zhuang Baifan was obviously good at defense. His defense was much stronger than other geniuses of the same level. Even Lin Ling's godly demon body was not as good as Zhuang Baifan's. Zhuang Baifan's ranking was lower than Lin Ling's. If Lin Ling could not defeat him, then Lin Ling would lose. What a mysterious awakened godly body. Although Lin Ling was furious, he did not lose his cool. He knew that this guy named Zhuang Baifan was not to be underestimated. But so what? Lin Ling wanted to see how long this powerful defense could last. Previously, he had only activated the evil flame change. Now, the power of his two dantians began to merge. Boom, boom, boom. Chapter 2543. Goodbye, see Xuanmei. Zhuang Baifan's face was calm and his heart was excited. If Lin Ling couldn't beat him, then that meant he was equal to Lin Ling. What second-generation rookie of the three great academies? If he hadn't risen late, then Lin Ling wouldn't have had the chance to show off his might. Bang! But at this moment, the 8 trigrams mirror began to shake, causing his face to change dramatically. What? Look at the 8 trigrams light. It's starting to shake. And it's even dimmer than before. Could Lin Ling's method be to break it with brute force? Everyone stared ahead and cried out in alarm. Lin Ling's fists were like 2 dragons rising out of the sea, directly hitting the 8 trigrams mirror and causing it to explode. It was as if he wanted to forcefully break the 8 trigrams light. Chi-chi. That simple and violent aura caused many second-generation juniors to suck in a breath of cold air. This was also possible. They thought that Lin Ling would use complicated martial arts to break the 8 trigrams light. Rumble, rumble, rumble. As Lin Ling's strength continued to fuse, his fists became even more powerful. Finally, under countless horrified gazes, Lin Ling's fist broke the 8 trigrams light, like a violent god of war. With Lin Ling's current cultivation realm, that was the fusion of the 8th and 7th stage of the World King realm. So he didn't need any tricks, he only needed to break it with brute force. And just as the 8 trigrams light dissipated, a fist came from the front, causing Zhuang Baifan's face to change. He immediately recognized the steel beads in his hand. Heavenly pattern Dao beads. Bang! Walala! As soon as the 2 steel beads appeared, they became larger and a terrifying power of chaos filled the air. This was actually a first-grade immortal treasure that increased the power of chaos by half a stage. To have an immortal treasure on him, one could see that his origin was extraordinary. Not long ago, Lin Ling had defeated Tang Che in the 9 Dragons realm. The latter was also a well-known figure among the second-generation juniors, and the latter had relied on an immortal treasure to dominate the second generation. From this, one could see the importance of an immortal treasure. Staring at the powerful treasure, many people's expressions became serious. They never thought that Zhuang Baifan would have such methods. No wonder he was so confident. Based on their understanding of Lin Ling, it seemed impossible for Lin Ling to defeat the immortal treasure. However, that recognition came from the battle on the drill ground. The current Lin Ling was no longer the same as before. Rumble! Lin Ling's fist still punched out. Flames erupted, as if it was the fist of ancestor fire. Crackle! Under that punch, the 2 steel balls also exploded due to the stress and were violently destroyed. The fists didn't stop there. They landed heavily on Zhuang Baifan's body, causing him to spit out blood and fly hundreds of meters away. I lost. Seeing this, many people's expressions became even more solemn. They never would have thought that Lin Ling would use such a method to defeat Zhuang Baifan. There was no technique, just a crude fist. At this moment, Lin Ling also appeared. Ignoring Zhuang Baifan, who was sent flying, he walked towards Ho Xiaoyan. Looking at Lin Ling, who was like the god of death, Ho Xiaoyan felt uneasy. Not long ago, Ho Xiaoyan's man was defeated by Lin Ling. Then, she climbed up to Zhuang Baifan. She thought that she could wash away the humiliation, but who knew that Zhuang Baifan would also be defeated? After a moment, Lin Ling stopped and looked down at Ho Xiaoyan. A cold, murderous intent filled the air. It was very terrifying. This is the Resplendent Academy. You can't kill me. Kill. Seeing this, Ho Xiaoyan immediately panicked. Lin Ling, don't be rash. Yu also hurriedly shouted from afar. She knew that Lin Ling was very angry at this moment. However, if Lin Ling killed Ho Xiaoyan, the consequences would be very serious. I won't destroy my future for a bitch. Kill. Although Lin Ling was angry, he didn't lose his calm. He slapped out fiercely. Slap. That slap caused Ho Xiaoyan's teeth to fly out. Her jaw was dislocated, and she became ugly in an instant. And Yuer didn't offend you, but you cursed her to die. Your mouth stinks. Shut up, Lin Ling said disdainfully. Then he turned around and left. He didn't kill Ho Xiaoyan because he didn't want to dirty his hands. Almost at the same time, Zhuang Baifan walked back with his heavily injured body. You said that if someone bullied your woman, you would have already done it. Now, I've hit her in front of everyone. What are you going to do? Shut up. Seeing this, Lin Ling stared at Zhuang Baifan and said indifferently. Hearing this, Zhuang Baifan's eyes narrowed. He had said that Yuer was dead, but Lin Ling didn't dare to do anything. He wasn't a man, he was a coward. Now Lin Ling had hit his woman. What would he do? Unfortunately, he didn't dare to do anything. Coward. Seeing that Zhuang Baifan didn't say a word, Lin Ling shouted angrily. His voice was like thunder, causing Zhuang Baifan's body to tremble. He almost wanted to fight back, but in the end, he lowered his head. Lin Ling's strength had exceeded his expectations. It felt like he was a half-step true Immortal Realm expert. Therefore, he knew that he was no match for Lin Ling. Ironically, he thought that Lin Ling was a second-generation rookie and that he was a second-generation rookie. Their strengths should be about the same. Lin Ling stepped forward and walked towards Zhuang Baifan. Zhuang Baifan's eyes were filled with anxiety. I said that I would break all your teeth. Slap. Just as Zhuang Baifan was about to say something, Lin Ling's slap had already landed on his face. Slap. A miserable sound rang out, followed by the sound of teeth breaking. Zhuang Baifan's face instantly swelled up, and there was a clear palm print on it. He glared at Lin Ling, his eyes full of resentment. Lin Ling had actually slapped his face in front of so many people, and even broke his teeth. I said that it's better to keep a low profile. Maybe you think that you're stronger than others, but before you have 70% confidence, you should treat it seriously. Otherwise, you'll just be asking for humiliation. Now you should feel lucky. This is Resplendent Academy. If it was outside, I would have already killed you with your cheap mouth. Looking at Zhuang Baifan indifferently, Lin Ling turned around and left. He muttered to himself, Zhuang Baifan? No wonder your name gave me such a strange feeling. So you're a pretentious prick. You want to show off in front of me? You're still lacking. The last sentence was extremely domineering. Everyone stared at the blue and white robe, and their faces became more and more serious. In Resplendent Academy, there was no lack of geniuses. Every now and then, a large number of monstrous geniuses would be born. They would break the records of their predecessors and create miracles. Zhuang Baifan was obviously one of them. However, when such a miraculous genius met a genius like Lin Ling, he was obviously weaker. Lin Ling was also a genius who created miracles, but his pace was very steady, and he was not easily surpassed by the latecomers. It could only be said that Zhuang Baifan was too confident. Perhaps he would be able to catch up to Lin Ling after a period of time, but now, he was clearly not strong enough. Zhuang Baifan touched his cheek and lowered his head. At this moment, he no longer had the arrogance from before. His strength was inferior, and he could only swallow his broken teeth into his stomach. Senior brother Lin Ling is indeed powerful. In the square, many people exclaimed in low voices, and many of the second generation were no exception. However, at this moment, several figures walked over. They stood out like cranes among chickens, and the moment they appeared, they attracted countless gazes. However, these people's eyes were all looking at Lin Ling, and there was a meaningful light in their eyes. These people were the top geniuses of the second generation in Resplendent Academy. They were the 10 strongest people of the second generation. One of the girls was also among them, but when she looked at Lin Ling, there was a trace of resentment. Chapter 2544. Are you afraid of me? After these geniuses appeared, the surroundings became deathly silent. However, Lin Ling also saw Si Xuanmei, and the coldness in his eyes became even more intense. Si Xuanmei was Yuer's senior sister. However, when she encountered danger, Si Xuanmei pushed Yuer out and used Yuer as bait to escape. Such a shameless person made Lin Ling angry every time he saw her. He didn't speak and walked towards Si Xuanmei step by step. The surrounding air was filled with an oppressive chill, and his killing intent was getting thicker and thicker. What is Lin Ling doing? Don't you know the hatred between him and Si Xuanmei? If it weren't for the Grand Secretary and other experts, Lin Ling would have killed Si Xuanmei in the previous battle. Yes, Lin Ling didn't give face to anyone at that time. Now that he sees Si Xuanmei again, how can Lin Ling suppress his anger? Many of the second generations whispered, surprised by Lin Ling's courage. Lin Ling, what are you trying to do? Seeing Lin Ling walking towards her, Si Xuanmei couldn't help but snort coldly. She still remembered the humiliation of being defeated in the past. She hated Lin Ling to death and wanted to kill Lin Ling with her own hands. However, that was just a thought. At least, she didn't have the strength to do so now. However, Lin Ling didn't pay attention to her and continued walking forward. The surroundings became even more silent, and countless eyes were looking at Lin Ling. The atmosphere was very oppressive. This is Resplendent Academy. What are you trying to do? Si Xuanmei snarled again. Lin Ling was walking towards her, and she didn't know what Lin Ling wanted to do. Could it be that he wanted to kill her? She was very clear that if it weren't for the fact that there were too many important figures, Lin Ling would have killed her. Now, it was no exception. Senior Sister Xuanmei is afraid. Seeing Si Xuanmei's appearance, many people secretly exclaimed. Si Xuanmei used to be the #1 rookie of the second generation. If there were no accidents, she would have become the strongest second generation. Unfortunately, she met Lin Ling. Now, she was afraid of Lin Ling. This showed that Lin Ling had left an indelible seed in Si Xuanmei's heart. He was a mountain that she must surpass. My master is one of the 10 great sword immortals of the Azure province, and this is the Resplendent Academy. Do you dare to act recklessly here? Si Xuanmei felt more and more stressed. So what? Lin Ling finally opened his mouth. His words were so shocking that it caused the hearts of many people in the surroundings to tremble. Naturally, those words gave Si Xuanmei even more pressure. She roared, "If you dare to kill me, my master will definitely not let you off. Although you have some strength, you are not my master's opponent. Moreover, this is the Resplendent Academy. Killing is not allowed here. You dare to violate the rules?" She hated and feared Lin Ling at the same time. She hated the fact that Lin Ling had stolen all of her limelight and was humiliating her now. She was afraid that Lin Ling was a person who dared to take responsibility for his actions and did whatever he wanted. Therefore, she had no choice but to threaten him with words. So what? However, Lin Ling still said the same sentence. It was cold as if he was emotionless. Moreover, as he walked, the terrifying aura around him became denser. His killing intent surged as if it was going to freeze the world. At this moment, not only Si Xuanmei, but even the faces of the second-generation disciples turned pale. Lin Ling, the Resplendent Academy is one of the 3 great academies. It is not your home. I am sure that when you make your move, someone will interrupt you. You must not kill your fellow disciples. Si Xuanmei took a step back and spoke rapidly. It was as if she was afraid that Lin Ling would kill her if she was too slow. Many people even trembled violently when they saw this fairy-like genius. However, at this moment, Lin Ling stopped in his tracks and said indifferently, "Are you afraid of me?" It was a calm sentence, but it was like a thunderclap that left Si Xuanmei speechless. In the past, she was a goddess that countless geniuses looked up to. She was the object of countless men's yearning. However, she was now afraid of a rising star. Moreover, even if she wanted to refute Lin Ling, her body had already betrayed her. No one would believe her. You said that the Resplendent Academy does not allow murder and killing fellow disciples? Lin Ling asked again. Yes. Si Xuanmei forced herself to focus and replied. So what if you kill fellow disciples? Lin Ling asked again. Killing fellow disciples is an ugly and despicable act. It is a disgrace to the Academy. Si Xuanmei thought that Lin Ling was afraid of the Academy's rules, so she made the rules sound even more serious. Then let me ask you, how did Inuer go missing? However, Lin Ling's next sentence stunned Si Xuanmei. Inuer was framed by her. Now that her life and death were unknown, she was also considered killing fellow disciples. And when she said that killing fellow disciples was an ugly and despicable act, she was also talking about herself. At this moment, she wanted to say something but stopped. Her face was green and red, and she was extremely ashamed. Originally, Inuer's disappearance would not be known as long as she did not say anything. Unfortunately, Lin Ling had forced her to say it last time. This made it clear to everyone. At this moment, many people were looking at Si Xuanmei with strange gazes. Ugly and despicable act. This was referring to Si Xuanmei, right? She seemed to be scolding herself. You. At this moment, Si Xuanmei was too ashamed to face anyone. However, at this moment, Lin Ling said again, "You should also want to kill me." "Yes. Yes. Yes." Si Xuanmei did not hide her thoughts. Her eyes were red as she replied. Lin Ling made her lose face, and even her master lost face. How could she not want to kill Lin Ling? "It's normal. I made you lose your reputation, making you more like a witch. You definitely want to kill me. Since you want to kill me, why should I be so afraid?" Lin Ling said again. Hearing this, many people nodded. Si Xuanmei wanted Lin Ling dead, and Lin Ling naturally wanted her dead. Since they were sworn enemies, why would Lin Ling be afraid of Si Xuanmei's master? Perhaps Lin Ling did not even fear the rules of Resplendent Academy. You might not be able to kill her. Calm. However, at this moment, one of the 10 second-generation geniuses behind Si Xuanmei spoke indifferently. This person was not tall, but he was very muscular. He had a square face, but it gave people a feeling that his square face was like steel, and there was an unapproachable expression. "Genji!" Everyone stared at the short and muscular youth and could not help but exclaim. Because this was the strongest genius of the second generation. No one would have thought that the number one genius of the second generation, Genji, would personally speak to Lin Ling. In fact, the reason why the 10 second-generation geniuses were silent was because they wanted to see how strong the rising star Lin Ling was. However, the result did not disappoint them. This Lin Ling was like a dragon soaring into the sky. After entering the second generation, he was extremely fearless. Even if they were here, Lin Ling would directly ignore them. This kind of disregard made them very unhappy. "I know you will quibble, but don't forget, Si Xuanmei has a 5th grade awakened godly body. It's just that her cultivation time is too short, that's why she lost to you. If given more time, you will definitely lose. This also means that if you dare to challenge Si Xuanmei again, you will definitely die." Chapter 2545. A 5th grade talent that sealed everything. Many people pondered for a moment before nodding. A 5th grade awakened godly body. It could be said that within the second generation, there were no more than 5 people with such a talent. Hence, Si Xuanmei was destined to enter the first generation. If given enough time, Si Xuanmei could indeed become very strong. It's better to know one's limits, or else you won't even know what happened when you die. Genji said again. "Thanks for the reminder. I know that many people are unhappy with me, Lin Ling. But if you want to kill me, then come. Why bother with all this nonsense?" Lin Ling smiled faintly. Within the second generation, geniuses were as common as clouds. Some even came from Grand Courtyard Prefecture. Hence, many wanted him dead. Perhaps even the strongest second-generation geniuses had the same thought. Unfortunately, this had nothing to do with Lin Ling. If they wanted Lin Ling dead, if they wanted Lin Ling to make a fool of himself, then come. You said before that Si Xuanmei's talent is very strong, but her training time is too short. That's why I was able to defeat her? Lin Ling spoke. Isn't that the case? Genji nodded. From his point of view, Si Xuanmei was considered a genius, while Lin Ling was still lacking. Then let me ask you, is it her who has been in Resplendent Academy longer, or is it me? Let me ask you again, what is her cultivation level, and what is mine? Lin Ling smiled faintly. His words caused Genji's pupils to dilate. It was undeniable that Si Xuanmei's talent was very strong. If her cultivation level increased by a bit, even Genji would have to be wary. However, Lin Ling's cultivation level was even lower, yet he was able to defeat Si Xuanmei. Then why not give Lin Ling some time? The answer was simple. No matter how strong Si Xuanmei became, she still wasn't Lin Ling's opponent. Lin Ling was a genius who came later. He started from the last generation of candidates and finally became a second-generation genius. At that time, Si Xuanmei was already a second-generation genius. This means that Lin Ling entered Resplendent Academy later than Si Xuanmei. Some of the geniuses said solemnly, causing Genji to frown. He had missed this point. Don't you feel that what you said before was like slapping your own face? Seeing this, Lin Ling gave tit for tat, and his words were mixed with sarcasm. Hearing this, Genji's face darkened. It was obvious that he had lost face. I can't deny that you have a sharp tongue. However, the price you have to pay to humiliate the number one genius of the second generation is very heavy. I admit that you are a genius. Let me ask you for some advice. Genji took a step forward, a terrifying aura emanating from him. Words could make him lose face, but he could counterattack with strength and make Lin Ling return in a sorry state. It can't be. Senior brother Genji made a move. Lin Ling is too arrogant. He didn't even give senior brother Genji any face. How could senior brother Genji just swallow it? Could it be that Genji Shixiang killed Lin Ling? No one thought that Genji would suddenly make a move. This caused many of the second generation to be filled with anticipation. Genji was the #1 genius of the second generation, and Lin Ling was the most dazzling genius of the second generation. The two were about to clash. However, no one thought highly of Lin Ling. After all, the #1 genius of the second generation was famous in the 3 academies. He was much stronger than Lin Ling. You can't win, so you use force? However, everyone thought that Lin Ling would be afraid. Who knew that Lin Ling only laughed, as though he wasn't surprised by this outcome. Your mouth is too smelly. I'm just teaching you to have some temper. Genji laughed coldly. If he didn't suppress Lin Ling, this Lin Ling wouldn't know what a senior brother was. Don't worry, I won't kill you. After all, you aren't enough for me to break Resplendent Academy's rules. However, I will humiliate you. Along with his voice, a turbulent black fog shot out from his body. Like circles of clouds, it sealed off the entire area. These clouds had a domineering aura, suppressing the second generations in the surroundings to the point that they couldn't even move a single step. The #1 genius of the second generation, his strength was indeed terrifying. Genji is facing a junior brother, and he actually used his innate talent. See Xuanmei, don't worry. This junior brother will be humiliated today. The other second-generation juniors said. They had fought with Genji for many years and knew how difficult and terrifying the latter was. Peak of the World King Realm? A 5th-grade awakened godly body. At the same time, Lin Ling let out a dignified voice. A 5th-grade awakened godly body, the same as Si Xuanmei. However, Si Xuanmei's innate talent wasn't good enough while Genji's was. You have a good eye. From the rolling black clouds, a faint laughter floated out and enveloped Lin Ling. In that instant, the world seemed to disappear. At the same time, a huge black coffin appeared in the sky. Rolling black gas poured out from the coffin. 5th-grade awakened godly body. Evil light mystic body. This wasn't a ghost attribute talent, but a dark attribute talent. It could absorb all energy and control a martial artist's life and death. Without a 5th-grade awakened godly body, he can't resist. Among the second-generation juniors, one of them shook his head and said, talent was the foundation for a genius to fight above their level. If one's talent was higher, then they would win without a doubt. Lin Ling's cultivation wasn't as high as Genji's and his talent wasn't as good. How could he resist? Now that he's in the black world, he's isolated from the martial god world and the other worlds. He's trapped in a prison. If he doesn't slap himself 3 times, Genji won't let him out. He might even be scared to tears. The others also sneered one after another. Hearing this, the surrounding people stared at the black fog, guessing in their hearts. Could the black fog trap any strong martial artist? This was too heaven-defying. Even a world has been trapped before. As if sensing everyone's shock, another second-generation junior explained. Using the black fog to trap a world, this ability was too heaven-defying. At this moment, Yu and the rest were extremely worried. Especially Yu. She had heard of Genji before. It was said that once his talent was used, any martial artist trapped in the black fog would have their strength sucked away. They could only be defeated in the end. Hence, she didn't know how Lin Ling would deal with this talent. Among them, only Tang Yue wasn't worried about Lin Ling. Because she knew Lin Ling's strength too well. A half-step true immortal realm martial artist lost to Lin Ling. Genji wasn't even a half-step true immortal yet. What a mysterious talent. At this moment, in the rolling black fog, Lin Ling found himself in the darkness, as if he was in another world. Fire! Lin Ling activated the time fire. However, the fire couldn't break through the darkness. Obviously, the time fire's level was too low and couldn't suppress Genji's talent. This reminded Lin Ling of a memory. In the past, Li Xiaoyao had also come into contact with such a mystical ability. That powerhouse was also of the dark attribute, but his darkness could cover the 1,000 realms whirling. He had once covered countless realms in the Western realm in darkness, and once enveloped by the darkness, even the table in front of him would disappear. This talent was indeed terrifying. Interesting. Lin Ling's lips curled into a smile. The martial god world was filled with geniuses. There were bound to be monstrous geniuses that surprised Lin Ling. In the outside world, you can easily open the martial god path and enter. However, in my world, any attack is useless. If you don't believe me, you can try. Chapter 2546. Follow up the victory. Lin Ling had already tried this before. Don't think that you will be fine if you don't move, because your Jie Yuan will be continuously absorbed. After 3 incense sticks of time, you will be crying and begging for mercy. That voice laughed coldly before disappearing. Genji did not even need to do anything, and Lin Ling would be exhausted. Once he released Lin Ling, 1 finger would be enough to defeat Lin Ling. My Jie Yuan is indeed continuously disappearing. Lin Ling was another method to discover the darkness. His talent was truly heaven-defying. Think about it. If you could not find an opponent and could not escape, then your Jie Yuan would continuously disappear. No matter how strong a martial artist was, they would not be able to do anything. After that, Lin Ling took out God crystals and continuously refined them to recover his Jie Yuan. However, he was shocked to find that the recovery speed of his Jie Yuan could not compare to the absorption speed. Truly a talent that cannot be underestimated. Lin Ling could not help but sigh. With this talent, Genji did not have many opponents in the half-step true god realm. However, Genji had clearly underestimated Lin Ling. Because Lin Ling had 2 dantians, his Jie Yuan was endless. If he wanted to absorb, then let him absorb. It was just a waste of time. Lin Ling could afford to play. At this moment, outside, the sounds of shock were still like waves. The crowd looked at the huge coffin and finally knew how terrifying Genji was. Senior brother Genji is still the strongest. Thank you for standing up for junior sister Xuanmei. See, Xuanmei bowed to Genji. She thought that Lin Ling must be very embarrassed right now. No worries, the number 1 second-generation rookie, although he has some ability, but to me it's just SOSO. Genji waved his hand indifferently, enjoying the admiring gazes of the crowd. Genji, what are you doing? Come. At this moment, several figures walked over from afar. They were the seniors from Resplendent Academy. One of them was Ancestor Longpa. Hee, just giving some pointers to junior brother. Haha. Genji knew the matter of teaching Lin Ling a lesson had to be temporarily put aside. However, this was enough to make Lin Ling restrain himself. This Lin Ling doesn't have much ability, but he knows quite a lot of people. Every time, he has to rely on some seniors to help him. I see that he became a new talent of the 2nd generation. Looks like it was done in secret by a senior. The other geniuses of the 2nd generation said sarcastically. Ha, that's all he's got. He can only rely on you, senior. But since you're here, I'll let him go. Hearing that, Genji laughed heartily, waving his right hand. The black fog surged back into the coffin. Since Ancestor Dragon Granny and the others are here, Genji doesn't dare to be too arrogant. Therefore, he didn't teach Lin Ling a lesson. Haha. Seeing Genji's carefree and domineering actions, many of the 2nd generation geniuses laughed out loud. One of them asked, how's Lin Ling now? His realm essence has been sucked dry. Right now, he probably doesn't even have the strength to stand up. It is very likely that he is kneeling. Genji immediately said. He was very confident. Only an 8th layer realm king. 3 incense sticks of time was enough to suck his realm essence dry. Perhaps Lin Ling might be unconscious right now. That would be interesting to watch. Even Si Xuanmei was looking forward to it. These guys. After Ancestor Dragon Granny arrived, her expression was extremely ugly. These strongest 2nd generation geniuses were clearly bullying Lin Ling, wanting to make Lin Ling lose face. But Genji and the others didn't violate the rules of the academy and didn't kill anyone. Therefore, she couldn't do anything. At this time, the black fog finally dispersed, revealing a slender figure. It was Lin Ling. Brother Ling. Yi was the first to shout, her voice filled with worry. No need for Brother Ling to be in front, Brother Ling to be behind. He's very weak now. Your voice can make him faint. A genius lightly said, his face full of ridicule. I'll test it out a little. And at this time, Genji stepped forwards. Beneath Ancestor Dragon Granny's surprise, he actually attacked Lin Ling. Don't worry, I won't harm him. I will suppress my cultivation to the 5th layer of the World King realm and see if he can block it. Genji's fists billowed, his realm essence roaring. However, Lin Ling's realm essence had been sucked dry. Not to mention a 5th layer World King. Even a first-layer world king would be enough to make Lin Ling retreat in distress. Ancestor Dragon Granny and the others wanted to stop him, but it was clearly too late. Si Xuanmei was excited. She looked forward to Lin Ling being smashed to the ground by this fist and losing all face. Of course, many people also had this thought. Only falling flowers flowing water and Sword were so angry that they clenched their teeth. This was going too far, and the fist was getting closer and closer to Lin Ling. But Lin Ling still didn't move, as if he hadn't noticed at all. He's so weak he can't react. Someone laughed sarcastically, thinking that Lin Ling was already in a semi-conscious state. However, just as his words fell, a powerful aura erupted from Lin Ling's body, as if a sleeping lion had awoken. How is this still the weak Lin Ling? This was simply the vigor of a dragon and the ferocity of a tiger. You want to exchange fists with me? At this moment, Lin Ling's narrowed eyes shone with a cold light. Like a sword being unsheathed, his aura soared to the heavens. His fist also punched out. Bang! The fists collided. Terrifying realm essence erupted, causing some third-generation juniors to lose their footing. But their faces were filled with fear. Lin Ling, shouldn't his realm essence have been sucked dry? How could he be so fierce now? Of course, the most surprised person was Genji. He maintained his punching posture, but the youth in front of his fist was calm and unmoving, making it difficult for him to take another step forward. At this moment, he was a bit confused. His fifth-grade awakened godhead should have sucked Lin Ling's realm essence dry. Where did Lin Ling's strength come from? This is the number 1 second generation? Although he has some skills, but to me, that's all there is to it. Lin Ling maintained his punching posture. Suddenly, the power of his second dantian erupted. He had 2 dantians. Previously, one was sucked dry, but there was still another one. Genji did not think of this point, so his punch did not explode with his full strength. This caused him to be sent flying by Lin Ling's punch. Bang bang bang. With every step Genji took back, the ground beneath his feet would explode, causing cracks to appear. What a terrifying punch. Everyone was shocked by the power of Lin Ling's punch. Genji finally managed to stop his momentum. He raised his head and looked at Lin Ling furiously. However, Lin Ling moved, chasing after the victory. His fist punched out once again. This time, it was even more ferocious than before, like a violent storm. Bang! Genji's body had just stabilized. His breathing was unstable. Facing Lin Ling's punch, he could only forcefully use his realm essence to resist. But obviously, the forceful use of his realm essence was not enough. Boom! Lin Ling's second punch was a direct hit to the heart of the matter. His fist caused the void to crackle. Genji let out a pitiful cry. His body was sent flying once again. This time, he was smashed out and not sent flying. Rumble! He directly smashed through a building far away, causing dust to fly everywhere. Countless people's mouths were wide open. The number 1 second generation Genji was actually sent flying by Lin Ling. God! Chapter 2547. The 3 Academies Pride Tournament. One must know that no one thought highly of Lin Ling from the start, because no matter how monstrous Lin Ling was, he would never be able to challenge the number 1 of the second generation. However, reality proved that Lin Ling was Resplendent Academy's number 1 monstrous genius. There was nothing he couldn't do. How could this be? Si Xuanmei's face was extremely pale. The more she knew Lin Ling, the more she realized that Lin Ling's strength was unfathomable. Furthermore, Lin Ling was only a 2nd-grade talent. How could he block a 5th-grade talent? This guy was too monstrous. In truth, even Ancestor Longpo was in disbelief. Could it be that a 5th-grade awakened godly body was ineffective against Lin Ling? She was overthinking. Lin Ling definitely couldn't block a 5th-grade awakened godly body. But Lin Ling's strength wasn't just limited to his cultivation realm. At that moment, the geniuses were shocked beyond words, exclaiming at the reality in front of them. As for the strongest 2nd generation, their faces changed from shock to shock and finally to solemnity. Could it be that Lin Ling already had the qualifications to compete for the title of the strongest 2nd generation? Only Lin Ling's face was calm. Because he could already defeat a half-step true god, a mere Genji was nothing in his eyes. What made him fearful was only Genji's talent. Hung, 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 hung. Almost at the same time, a series of explosions sounded. Genji walked back with a gloomy face. If it wasn't for Ancestor Longpo, I would have defeated you today. I'll return the same words to you. However, Lin Ling wasn't afraid at all. He even wanted to try. You. Genji didn't expect Lin Ling to embarrass him. Not only was he not lucky, he even looked like he wanted to fight again. This was a huge humiliation to him. I underestimated you just now. I didn't even use my full strength. Otherwise, how could I have been defeated by you? Genji's voice was very low. The number one of the second generation actually lost. If the other two Academy's opponents knew, they would laugh at him. Not repelled, but sent flying. Lin Ling smiled and corrected his words. Also, are you the only one who hasn't used your full strength? You. Genji shouted again, you. He was so angry that he almost lost his mind. Lin Ling is so arrogant. He's not afraid of Genji at all. That's right. I thought he would lower his voice in front of Genji, who knew he wasn't afraid at all. Could it be that he's still hiding his strength? Seeing Lin Ling and Genji going head-to-head, many of the geniuses looked at Lin Ling in a new light. Today's Lin Ling was clearly a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. As for Si Xuanmei, her face was gloomy. Lin Ling was getting further and further away from her. If she did not increase her strength, she would definitely be killed by Lin Ling. She suddenly felt an enormous pressure in her heart. Haha, Lin Ling, not bad at all. At this time, Ancestor Long Granny's laughter could be heard. Lin Ling had gone missing previously. Who would have thought that after his return, his strength would increase so much that he would be able to fight against the number one second generation. This guy surpassed those powerful geniuses, as if it was as simple as drinking water. I knew that you guys would fight sooner or later, but the Pride Tournament of the 3 Academies is coming. The fight for the number one second generation can start during the Pride Tournament. Ancestor Long Granny said. That's right, I almost forgot about that. The Pride Tournament of the 3 Academies, that's the battle of pride between the 3 Academies. Speaking of it, I'm actually excited. I'm afraid that Lin Ling and Genji's battle will be left for that time. Hearing Ancestor Long Granny's words, many of the geniuses started to discuss, and many of them were in high spirits. The Pride Tournament of the 3 Academies, that was a battle between the second generation of the 3 Academies. Genji was the number one second generation of the Resplendent Academy, but he was obviously not the number one second generation of the 3 Academies. Therefore, even Genji was looking forward to such a competition. Lin Ling, see you in the Pride Tournament. Let's see who's more arrogant. Genji looked at Lin Ling and said. He no longer dared to treat Lin Ling as an ant. I'm sorry, but you don't have the qualifications to be my opponent. I'm curious about the number one second generation of the other academies. Unfortunately, Lin Ling replied indifferently. Through the previous battle, he had a rough understanding of the second generation of the Resplendent Academy. Therefore, his goal was to be the number one second generation of the other academies. Since he would become the number one first generation sooner or later, he could use the Pride Tournament to see his own flaws and see how powerful the geniuses of the 3 academies were. You. This was the third time Genji had shouted you today. He never thought that Lin Ling would be so arrogant that he would not treat him as an opponent. Previously, he had only underestimated his opponent. If he were to use his full strength, Lin Ling would not be his opponent. Unfortunately, a win was a win, and a loss was a loss. No matter what excuses he came up with, he could not erase the humiliation from before. Everyone disperse. Ancestor Long Pa looked deeply at Genji and said lightly. She then smiled at Lin Ling and said, Lin Ling, follow me. Lin Ling nodded and looked coldly at Si Xuanmei before leaving with Yu and the rest. That look was a threat, telling Si Xuanmei that her good days were numbered. That look made Si Xuanmei's heart tremble. She hated Lin Ling even more. Lin Ling was forcing her into a dead end, not giving her a way out. She and Lin Ling only had a small conflict. Who knew that Lin Ling would bully her like this? At this moment, she treated Lin Ling as a life and death enemy. She had to kill Lin Ling no matter what. When she was thinking about this, she didn't realize that when she harmed Enyub, she had also given Enyub a way to live. As for Genji, he stood there coldly. He still did not understand how Lin Ling had sent him flying. Why was his talent ineffective against Lin Ling? At this moment, Lin Ling was walking with Ancestor Long Pa. Beside him was Senior Dandelion. The two of them looked at Lin Ling in shock. Your strength has increased again? Yes. Ancestor Long Pa finally could not help but ask. A true genius was not as simple as increasing one's realm. Increasing one's strength was the most important. Moreover, I can sense the aura of Sword Heart from you. Senior Dandelion was a powerful swordsman, so she said thoughtfully. Lin Ling smiled bitterly and shook his head. In front of these seniors, he could not hide anything. He immediately said, "Yes, I have indeed comprehended Sword Heart." "Yes. You." "Yes." Dandelion and Ancestor Longpa stopped in their tracks at the same time and looked at Lin Ling in horror. One must know that the Academy had been paying attention to Lin Ling because Lin Ling's cultivation speed was too fast. However, some opponents believed that Lin Ling was just a flash in the pan. He was strong in the beginning, but not strong enough in the end. But who knew that Lin Ling's momentum did not decrease at all? His realm increased quickly, and even his strength was the same. "What? You have comprehended Sword Heart?" Beside him, Falling Flowers Flowing Water also exclaimed. He looked at Lin Ling from head to toe, as if he was looking at a monster. His master was one of the top 10 sword immortals in Qingzhou, so he knew what Sword Heart represented. His master had once said that only with Sword Heart could one be considered a true ultimate Sword Dao. And his master had comprehended Sword Heart 8,000 years later. Chapter 2548. Flame World Fragment. Haha, I was just lucky. Haha. Seeing Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword's terrified expression, Lin Ling smiled and said casually, "Lin Ling, I won't call you Lord in the future, okay? Can I call you Master? I'll kneel to you. Please enlighten me on my Sword Heart." Haha. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword smiled bitterly and almost knelt to Lin Ling. With the Sword Heart, his battle strength had doubled. Because the Sword Heart was also primal chaos energy, it had probably reached the first level. "Your talent is too weak. I don't want to recruit such a mediocre disciple." Haha. Hearing this, Lin Ling looked at Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword seriously and said indifferently, "Ah, Lord, don't joke around." Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword was speechless. Haha. Ancestor Dragon Granny and the others laughed, and then led the group forward. Ancestor Dragon Granny suddenly said seriously, "The Pride Tournament is not only a tournament for personal glory, but also a tournament for the school. Lin Ling, you will represent the second generation and win glory for the Resplendent Academy. Don't lose face for the Resplendent Academy." Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. "However, don't look down on the second generation. The first generation of the second generation of the Heavenly Saint Academy and Songling Academy are all extremely strong. They can fight against a half-step true god. Moreover, their talent is not weak. Your talent is currently your weakness, and so is your cultivation realm. The Pride Tournament will be held in about a year. Use this 1 year to stabilize your realm." Ancestor Dragon Granny and Senior Dandelion continued. A year was very short, and it was difficult to increase one's cultivation. However, if one stabilized their realm, their strength would increase by about 10%. In order to increase the strength of the second generation, the Academy has decided to let all the second generation enter the myriad worlds. Ancestor Dragon Granny looked at Lin Ling and said. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. "Enter the myriad worlds to comprehend? What was that?" In the infinite worlds, the Resplendent Academy has its own independent void. It has a place to raise the strength of the Sword Dao, 5 elements, Buddha, wind, and so on. You only need to choose one of them. Ancestor Dragon Granny continued. It's very difficult to open these independent voids. It costs a lot, so it's an extremely rare opportunity. You have to grasp it well. That's great. It's actually an independent void. That chess boy immediately said in ecstasy. That kind of place was something that could only be encountered by chance. This was also the reason why so many geniuses wanted to join the 3 great academies. You're not the second generation yet, so you don't have a chance this time. Only Lin Ling and you can enter. However, Senior Dandelion glanced at Chess Boy and immediately attacked him. This made Chess Boy gloomy. He wished he was the second generation. However, he didn't have Lin Ling's monstrous talent. He could only cultivate 1 step at a time and slowly become stronger. Lin Ling and Yu looked at each other. Yu immediately said, I'll go to the 5 Elements Department. The 5 Elements Department is all-encompassing. It's the most difficult to comprehend. Are you sure? Senior Dandelion asked with a frown. One had to know that there were many types of martial arts department in the academy. For example, the fire element, earth element, and so on. However, the 5 Elements Department included these independent voids. It was even more complicated. It was possible to return empty-handed. Yu nodded with determination in her eyes. There's only one chance. If you miss it, there won't be another. I hope you can choose the best independent void. Of course, if you're sure, we won't stop you. Ancestor Dragon Granny didn't persuade anymore. She looked at Lin Ling and asked, What about you? Lin Ling was a triple cultivator of essence, qi, and spirit. There were many places he could go, but he could only choose one. What about the refinement department? Or the sword Dao department? Moreover, there were also the soul department that could increase one's soul power. Soon, Lin Ling made a decision and said, I'll go to the fire department. That's a good choice. Your current fire element talent is too low. If you go to the fire department, it's very likely that you'll be greatly improved in this field. Ancestor Dragon Granny nodded with satisfaction. She never had to worry about Lin Ling's cultivation. Lin Ling seemed to know his shortcomings and strengths better than anyone else. It felt as if Lin Ling was a powerful warrior. Then the two of you should prepare. We'll set off in 3 days. Ancestor Dragon Granny said. Falling flowers, flowing water, and the others gave their blessings to Lin Ling and Yu. After all, this year's cultivation was related to the upcoming Pride tournament. Therefore, they hoped that Lin Ling could rule the world among the second generation of the 3 great academies. The crowd quickly separated. Lin Ling held Yu's hand and walked around the resplendent academy. He also told her about his return to the rainforest's sacred land. How are Grandpa and the others? Speaking of this, Yu's mood clearly became excited. Very good. By the way, Eber has reached the martial emperor realm. It won't be long before he can comprehend the boundary seed and come to us. Lin Ling said in a good mood. That little guy is very hardworking. I haven't seen him for a long time. I miss him. I forgot to mention this. Eber has also found a partner. Her name is Huang Ying. She seems to have a good personality and she likes Eber very much. Really? Eber has grown up. Hee, maybe in a few years, Eber will have a child and you will be a grandmother. You're so annoying. You're going to be a grandfather too. The two of them talked as they walked. It was like their childhood dream, to hold hands and travel around the universe. All of this was obviously not easy to come by. One must know that in this chaotic universe, many people who loved each other could not be together. In the end, they were separated by yin and yang. And all of this was due to Lin Ling's contribution. He also knew that all of this was brought about by strength. Only with great strength could one protect everything. At this moment, his heart was incomparably tranquil. He came from another world and did not expect that he would come to this day. Even his son was about to marry a wife. Although his life had been filled with blood and tears, it was also extremely perfect. Of course, the battle was not over. He, Lin Ling, still had to avenge Li Xiaoyao's great hatred. 3 days later, Lin Ling and Yu were led by Ancestor Long put to the Independent Void. This Independent Void was in the chaotic universe. When Lin Ling and the rest appeared there were a large number of whirlpools floating in the starry sky, revealing a mysterious aura. According to legend, the Independent Void was born from a mutated world. There were countless treasures in it. At this moment, a large number of figures were shuttling back and forth in the starry sky. They were all the second generation of the Resplendent Academy. They were pacing back and forth in front of the whirlpools, as if they were hesitating about which system to cultivate. And from time to time, there were people walking out of the whirlpools with regretful expressions. Obviously, they had reached their limits. In the 10,000 worlds, one could not cultivate for as long as they wanted. It also depended on one's own limits. Once one reached their limits, the consequences would be unimaginable if they forced themselves to stay. Lin Ling, it's Lin Ling. He's also here. It seems like he wants to work hard for the Pride tournament. I heard that Genji has also entered the Independent Void. He's going for the Dark System. I'm looking forward to their confrontation. Many people also saw Lin Ling and whispered among themselves. Among the second generation of the Resplendent Academy, Lin Ling was now a celebrity. Ordinary second generation did not dare to provoke him. They only respected and worshipped him. Yu, let's go. Ignoring the gazes around him, Lin Ling smiled at Yu. Yu nodded and the two walked side by side. Yu had chosen the Independent Void of the 5 elements. You're tuning in to the Blimay's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.